What is going on, everybody? Welcome to Crunch Time with
Whoa.
Jeff. Yeah, sorry about that. I had the stream pulled up on my computer. But we're good. We're back. It's Crunch Time with Jeff, Lukas Gentry. Tuesday, July 2nd. Hope everyone's having a great day out there. We got the boys here. Michael Gentry's handling some business. They might be here at the end of the show, but if not, he got some things he got to handle. So he's out today. We got the trio here. Boys, how we feeling tonight?
$1 million as always. Feel great.
Feeling great, Boone?
I feel great as always.
Yeah, I had a great day. Looking forward to the 4th. Nice weather, and be heading to the Brothers tomorrow. So you guys are gonna be carrying the show. Trust it's gonna be in good hands. I already know it will be, but yeah, I'm excited for the 4th. Great week, favorite week of the year, honestly.
I do enjoy the 4th.
Yeah, we'll no show Thursday. So no show Thursday on 4th of July. We have Doc tomorrow. So Doc, he'll help. Hey, he'll take care of business as he always does. I went actually golfing with Doc today. Did 9 holes at Sycamore, right by 21 and North Ave, I think it was. But yeah, it was fun. Getting out there with Doc and he's such a great dude. I know for people, a lot of people, he's got a high approval rating. Like if he ran for office, he'd get a lot of approval. But there are some people that come at Doc. Doc is one of the most genuine human beings. Like that dude, yeah, he deserves everything. Like all the good stuff that's coming his way. He's a
legend,
great.
Man. And he helps the boys out a lot.
Yeah, and he's looking forward to tomorrow. So yeah, tomorrow we'll have the Doc. Today we have a lot of Lions to get to. Stuff that kind of transpired over the last couple of days. Speaking of the Doc, he interviewed Jake Bates, and Jake Bates had some things to say about choosing Detroit. So hey, we're going to get into that. Aidan Hutchinson talked about this upcoming season for the Lions. We'll get to his comments. Speaking to Brad Galley as well. And on top of that, Jeff Risdon reported something that relates to an argument we've had here on the show and just a conversation we've had on the show. And I can't wait to get to that as well and kind of get everyone's thoughts on it. But before
Cannot wait for that one.
This comment, by the way, true as Khalifa. Jeff looked like he finna say, guess what? Chicken bone. All right.
That's great. Shout out to people.
Everybody. Shout out to Ryan Truth as well. Shift Gods in here. ETN, Steve Lehman. We appreciate you, Jeff Olson.
I saw that Booner path, baby.
Yeah. Hey.
There we go.
Yeah.
There we go, Freddie. Freddie will always have my back. He'll always stay Freddie will be side by side with me to the end until the Lions win a Super Bowl. Shout out to Freddie, man.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's the Booner path. The path that was originated by you. We went to battle. And I conceded. I've joined the Booner path, and now I've been promoted, so I'm excited. And it lives on, and it's always going to live on, and it's always going to. It'll always stay on top.
I don't know. This is people who want to do the similar thing as the Booner path. The same people who didn't like the Booner path, and the same people who declared the Detroit Lions dead at a certain point of the season last year when the Booner path originated, and the Booner path said, "No, we're not dead. We're going to go to an NFC Championship game, and in the next couple of years, you're going to see a Super Bowl in Detroit here." So that the Booner path is alive more than ever. We've got the people. Shout out Freddie Felt. Shout out everyone. Tom, Jay Cruz, and everyone. Shout out to everyone that still is on the Booner path. Don't listen to these people. And Jeff, this isn't to go at you because you are now on the Booner path, but you were one of the originators of the people who hated the Booner path and hated the idea of me saying the Detroit Lions. Because what was the origination of it? The Detroit Lions are going to go to the NFC Championship game. That was the whole facts behind it. And guess what? We went to the NFC Championship game. Now, going forward, it's a Super Bowl to go win a Super Bowl. The thing, though, is don't let people, I know all these other names and all these other things you're saying. Don't let these people take you off of the real vision of the Booner path. Because as soon as one thing goes wrong, these are the same people who will say that the Detroit Lions season is over. And when Ben Johnson leaves, these are the same people who say when Ben Johnson leaves, the Detroit Lions franchise is over. These are the same people who will say Jared Goff can't win you a Super Bowl. These are the same people who declared the Detroit Lions dead at the trade deadline. So I just want you guys to be very, very locked in on that we will never change, and we're going to be very consistent with the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, there's a lot that happened.
There is. I mean, it's just people who just love to ride the wave. You know what I mean? Ride the wave. No, I'm consistent. I look at the football team last October and I said, this is an NFC Championship contending team. Guess what they did? They went to the NFC Championship team. Right after that, guess what? Super Bowl, a Super Bowl winning team. This is what's going to happen. So yeah, no, I'm pumped, and I support all the people. Shout out Easy. You know what? The Easy Expressway. Go ahead. That can be another attachment of the Booner Path. If that wants to be another attachment behind us, that's rolling with us. We're just going to keep connecting all the Detroit Lions fans. We don't want to discriminate and take away any fun from anyone else. We want everyone to be along and enjoy this journey to win a Super Bowl. Just like anyone was allowed on the Booner Path when I said they were going to win or go to the NFC Championship game. They can always hop on. Even though Easy's the one that says Jared Goff could never win. He's the one that says when Ben Johnson leaves, the Lions can't win anything. He's the one that said the Lions weren't going to win when they didn't make a move at the deadline. He's still allowed on there, even though he's one of the bigger haters. I love Easy. He is allowed on the Booner Path.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
The Easy Expressway is a secondary addition to the Booner Path. Same with the Spenny Path. Yeah, it's an off-road on it. It's an off-ramp.
Yeah, even the and again, the Easy Expressway, typically on expressways, depending on the time of day, you run into some traffic,
Yeah.
and the Booner Path, there's not really any traffic. You just go. It's its own designated roadway.
It's the main. What's the main one? Is 75 like the main one down all the way down through Florida in the United States? It's the main expressway. And we have a lot of different exits and a lot of different cities on the way. And at the very end of 75, which is the Booner Path, guess what? That is the Super Bowl, the Lombardi Trophy with Dan Campbell and Jared Goff holding it up above their heads in Penn Sewell. That is what that is. And all of these off-roads here, we've got a lot of different cities here, a lot of different exits. You know what the Easy Expressway is? That's exit 225. That's what that is. The Spenny Path, that's exit 222. All these different paths have their own exits.
It's fair. Well, I would assume that one person that is a part of the Booner Path is Aidan Hutchinson, because he came out and talked to Brad Galley and talked about how confident he is in the Lions this upcoming season. So let's play this clip of Aidan Hutchinson speaking about expectations and how it ties into Super Bowl expectations. So let's get to it. Here's Aidan Hutchinson. And it looks like he's I don't know if this was this wasn't at the Rocket Mortgage Classic.
This was at the Rocket Mortgage Classic. It was. Okay. It was in the yep. I think it was about it was last Tuesday, I believe, is when they did the Pro-Am or they did the scramble there.
Yeah, we saw the golf swing. Yep. That's fair. All right, let's hear Aidan Hutchinson.
Young fans and maybe some new friends like Ricky Fowler ask you, is this the year? What do you tell them? What are you telling people right now?
I feel like it's the year. I mean, with every fiber of my body, I feel like it's the year. And, I mean, I honestly, I believe from this year on, every year is the year, with the guys that we have. And, I hope that we're going to sustain this success for a long time.
Well, you heard the man. Sustain success for a long time. And I think he kind of mentioned a little bit there that every year that should be the mindset. And that's where the Lions are as a franchise. We talked about that yesterday, how it's not just NFC Championship game or bust, it's Super Bowl or bust. Yeah. That's how the 49ers think. It's how the Chiefs think. It's how the Ravens think. It's how the Eagles are going to think this year. So the Lions should think that by default. And I think Booner, when you look at the roster, one of the best rosters, expectations are high. I'm curious. I mean, not as much curious because we saw them last year with expectations handle it, but now they're expected to be there. And that should be the mindset.
Yeah, 100%. And shout out to the video there, Brad Galley, working on trying to get him on the show here so we could talk to him. He's pretty tuned in with a lot of this stuff too. But yeah, I don't know with the Hutch thing, him saying that, I think it's like we're in what? It's July 2nd right now. You're like, we're in the deadest of the periods when it comes to NFL football and the Detroit Lions football. So you're like, you're trying to get through it. That's just like hearing that. It's just like, it's your blood flowing. It's like, my blood is just bubbling up. Cause it's like, all right, these guys that's all they're thinking about. Like, you're in July and the only thing these guys are all thinking about is Super Bowl. And like, it alludes back to the conversation we had with the Booner Path and all that. Like, those teams you named, Jeff, they're like, I wanted to go look at the odds again to see if anything moves. The Lions, it's a 4-man race or a 4-team race right now when it comes to the top of the NFL right now. The Chiefs are plus 600, the 49ers are plus 600, The Ravens are plus 950, and the Detroit Lions are plus 1,300. And then everyone else is behind them at plus 1,400, plus 16. And it starts falling off after that. So, like, essentially, it's a 4-team race out there. And you have the 49ers and Lions in the NFC, where they're going to be competing all season long to be, like, who's going to represent the NFC. And I think that's what it is, man. And it feels like the team as a whole, like you said, Jeff, the roster as a whole, like Mark Schlereth said yesterday, like this roster is built for a Super Bowl. And it's not even just the roster, but being able to, like, if there are pieces that are missing, Dan Campbell is so good at taking the team that he has at hand and bringing the best out of these guys. And, like, I have full faith that they're going to be able to do that. And for Hutch to come out and say, like, no, this is the year. And it's not even just this year. Like, he even said, like, it's going in the future. And do you remember months ago when you guys were questioning me about the Booner path? Like, what is it? What is it? And one thing that I kept saying was, this isn't just a one-year thing. Like, when I look at this Lions organization, I get a feeling that this is something for the next 4 or 5 years that they're building, like, sustained success like the 49ers have, except the 49ers haven't gotten over that hump. So, like, when you get that sustained success, when you see now that they're signing, shout out Jared Goff, you see they signed Jared Goff, Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra, Hutch is going to get signed. All these guys are going to get signed. And, like, the easiest point, Ben Johnson's going to leave, right, at some point. The predecessor of him, Dan Campbell's going to have someone ready to go. Dan Campbell's someone who helped build and find Ben Johnson. Like, he was aware enough to say, hey, he's in this organization, we're going to keep him in here. And hopefully he does the same thing with Tanner Engstrand, and he's able to build him someone like that up. So I don't think this is like a 1 year. And I know a lot of people and Easy in the chat, like when I was listening to him earlier today, talk about this is it's Super Bowl or bust. It's not just this year, though, guys. Like, this is like a 4 or 5 year thing. I said it yesterday on the show. I expect an opportunity for the Detroit Lions to go out and win two Super Bowls in the next 5 or 6 years with the roster that they have and what they've built up. And I don't think that's crazy to say, because I'm sure 49ers fans 3 years ago would have said the same thing. And I think when the Chiefs 2 or 3 years ago would have said the same thing. And the Ravens at one point would have said the same thing. And I think that's where the Detroit Lions are right now. It's like, this is a team that should go out there and compete for a Super Bowl for the next 6 years. You should go out and win 2 of them. That's my expectation, as crazy as that sounds.
Yeah, and the reality of it is you have Brad Holmes, so he's going to keep that window open just based on how well he can draft. And Dan Campbell, given that he's arrived as a head coach, if he keeps coaching at the level he's at, then yeah, the window's going to be open. Same with Jared, playing at the level he's at. You're going to be a contender in the NFC and in the NFL. And Ben Johnson's here, and you got all these pieces. Guys are on rookie deals. And that's why it's not that the window's short, but your best chance is in the near future. Like, and that's not me saying anything controversial. Like, while Ben's here, while all these guys are cheap that are really good players, that is true. That their best chance is in the next 2 years, 3 years, but that's not saying it's their only chance. Does that make sense? With the roster they have now, does that make okay? I'm not trying to.
Well, when you think about it, Jeff,
no, but
let's just do
best chance is in the next couple of years, so they got to get one.
And like in my mind, like let's do an example real quick. Say the Lions go into the Super Bowl this year and say they lose it to the Chiefs or something, right? Mm-hmm. You're going into next year just because they lost the Super Bowl. Like, this is where I don't want people to think like this year, it's Super Bowl or bust. That it's not that it's Super Bowl or bust. And when you say bust, that meaning like, oh no, the project is over, like we're done. No, it just means like that was a disappointing year because you're expected to win the Super Bowl now. But after, say you lose the Super Bowl and you go into next offseason, you're expecting like Brad Holmes to draft again, draft more pieces that are going to be able to build and help you get better, re-sign guys, and go out and get more free agents to where after this year, going into next season, guess what? Like this Detroit Lions team, they're not going to lose any big pieces. They're signing all of their guys. They're just going to keep getting better. And like they're right now, they're already the 4th best odds to win the Super Bowl, and they're kind of at the, I wouldn't say the floor, but they're just above the floor of where they've been able to reach. And I think they still have a very, very high ceiling because in the next 2 or 3 years, they're going to have all of these main stars and main pieces re-signed for the next 4 or 5 years. And Brad Holmes is always only going to keep drafting players and bringing in free agents and trading for players. And this roster is only going to get better and better and better and better. So that's where, like, I'm with you on that, Jeff. Like, I think, like, there's only an increase of how good this football team can get. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, that's where I think of people when they hear Super Bowl or bust. They're like, you have to win this year or it's over. No, this is
No.
this is actually a bigger window than most franchises have, because most franchises like Klotz, remember we had that conversation. I can't remember who it was that called us out or called the Lions out saying after you lose an NFC championship game, it's hard to get back. Like, there are organizations who lose and they don't have a future. They don't have, their window was that year. This window is so much bigger than any other window that you can see. This is a 49ers, Chiefs window, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think where it kind of offsets is because you do have a re-signed quarterback with Jared Goff, and people usually say, okay, once you re-sign your quarterback, you can't sign X, you can't sign Y. Well, a lot of these core pieces, I understand Panay and Amon-Ra just got re-signed, but all the other guys, the impact players, are either A, on rookie deals, or B, on low veteran minimum deals like Carlton Davis. So this team, they do have a quarterback that's making good money, but I don't think that's going to stop them from being able to make moves. If Brad Holmes wanted to make a move right now for a big player, he could do that right now with the cap space that they have. Maybe not a top 20 player in the NFL, but we brought up the conversation yesterday. If you want to bring in like an Adam Thielen, they can do that. Jared Goff is not preventing them making moves on the salary basis part of it. Down the future, it's obviously going to be increasing, but I think that's the biggest thing with this window. As long as Brad Holmes has money in his pocket, this team is going to be good. And I think he's set himself up so he always has flexibility. He's always 2-3 steps ahead instead of 1 or 2.
And that's why I agree that with Brad, he extends that window. Even though we don't know who he's going to draft, we just kind of know it's coming. He's going to find good players in all parts of the NFL draft. But the reality is we have this discussion all the time with who's coming up for contract extensions. And I don't think it's news to anybody that you can't re-sign everyone. Yeah. And that's okay. When you have a GM like Brad, he gives you some flexibility to find more talent. But with the players you have now, the proven players like Aleem, Taylor Decker, and all these guys, that's my point. It's not that the window's closing, but your best chance is in the next probably 2 years, 1 to 2 years. And then after that, we'll see. I mean, if Brad hits on more draft picks, then he's just going to keep extending it. So that's why I want to clarify that. It's not that I'm, pulling one of the national takes that you hear the last couple of months where it's like, oh, they got to win one this year. No, but ideally you win one soon with all these guys still under contract, guys that are cheap that you haven't paid yet. And with Ben Johnson here, like your best of the best, how this roster looks. But with Brad, you guys nailed it. Like he's an elite Italian evaluator. And even when guys you can't pay, you just kind of assume that Brad's going to find a way to replace that said player. So it's definitely a benefit having Brad. We talked about this yesterday with head coach in quarterback duos. And I brought up the point about it's something that I just talk about all the time. And it's so important in the NFL. It's the 3 things you need to get right: quarterback, head coach, and GM. Lions have that going well for them right now. So as long as they have those 3 guys playing at a high level or doing their job at a high level, they're always going to be contenders. Now I see this comment here. And Phil says, will AG be the DC at the end of the season? And what do you guys think of AG stuff?
Absolutely. This is going to be AG's first season where he can finally run the system that he wants. He's been having to cover up holes in his defensive system this whole time. He's a man-to-man press coverage type of guy. When you have Cam Sutton, who is more so a nickelback in Pittsburgh, Kendall Vildor and Jerry Jacobs, and that's who you have pressing up on Justin Jefferson and et cetera, there's no way that's going to be able to work. They're really good at the run defense, and I think that's what AG was like, you know what? We're going to get a lot of yards up through the air, but we are going to stop the run. And they were an elite run defense this year, and I think you could see the secondary be a top 15 unit production-wise, and that run defense isn't going anywhere. So AG, I think he's just going to build his case why some teams are interested in him being a head coach in the NFL. I think AG is going to have a terrific season.
Yeah, I do think AG ends up stepping up. That's been like the biggest issue is it feels like Brad took he focused on the offense, building the offense up, and then he did get some pieces on the defensive end, but it took longer than before. I hope I'm not going to sit and I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I'm not going to sit up here and say I think AG's locked in to be your DC heading into the next year. I think it's this is a make or break season for him. He has every single piece. And I have a question for you guys later in the show about this defense that I'm genuinely interested to hear where you guys are kind of stand on it, because I think that's and I've said it a million times. I think the Super Bowl is won through this defense. If this defense steps up and you take that jump as a defense, that's where your Super Bowl run's going to be. We already know this offense. This is an offense that can go win a Super Bowl. It's been a top 5 offense for the last 2 seasons. That we already know what that is. But if you can get stops and help your offense and they can find ways to get stops and create turnovers and win the turnover battle and things like that, then like that's where the Super Bowl is run. But they or won. Now they do have like AG has pieces to work with now. So I'm interested to see if he's able to, put Terrion Arnold in positions to be successful. Carlton Davis, Kirby, like what is he going to do with these safeties? He has a couple safeties to work with now. Brian Branch, like what schemes is he going to do? And I think it is perfect, like you said, Klotzy. Like everything's in line for him to have a good year and this defense to take a jump forward, but it has to be shown first, I think.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. He has a lot of pressure on him to succeed this year with that defense. But to Lucas's point, he's had to make, and I'll say it again, chicken soup out of chicken, what? Like, and he's he loves man to man. That's what he wants to do, man coverage. And you just haven't had any man to man corners. And now they have a couple of guys that are man to man corners, and their defensive line. Even though I'm still low iffy on Davenport, I think for the most, they have upgraded with DJ Reader. They have. So you're giving him more tools and more corners. He has all the tools to at least put up a serviceable, if not good defense. So we'll see. But yeah, a lot of it falls on AG's shoulders for them to win a Super Bowl.
I would be absolutely shocked if AG did not prove himself this year. Like I honestly, I really don't have any concern about this defense not showing up, just because they always lack talent regardless, but you always saw the dudes were flying around the field. Like the brand of football that Aaron Glenn has already played here, the tone that he's been setting. I mean, the defense is known for being very physical. They just aren't very good. Well, now they're pretty good. So when you look at AG and just how he wants to play, and you look around the NFL at how the elite defenses are playing, they're man-to-man defenses that just go after the quarterback and try to make plays. They don't play conservative. AG is not going to play conservative, because the more conservative you play football nowadays, quarterbacks are just going to pick you apart. And that's the last thing that Aaron Glenn wants to do. You saw it towards the end of last year. He just wants to pressure the quarterback so they turn the ball over. And he has the personnel to do that this year.
You did see the change. Do you guys remember, like last year, you did see the change where, and this is, I for a little bit, while, and Easy's in the chat here too, because remember, I was someone that was like not questioning AG last year, but I was like, I think it's more so like obviously the personnel was an issue, but also like the schemes and everything that he was putting out there, that was an issue too. And you saw a change like halfway through the year when he decided, all right, we're going to start sending blitzes, we're going to start sending pressure to the quarterback, and we'll give up those yards, because then when it comes down to it, once you get in the red zone, then we're able to kind of, the pressure that we bring, like they can't get those yards in the red zone. And they ended up getting a lot of red zone stops and forcing field goals. And that was how a lot of wins came down the stretch, was they were able to stop teams in the red zone a little bit more down the stretch. So like I will give him a ton of credit for like halfway through the year being like, all right, we need to change this up. We need to just send pressure. We need to send pressure. And that was like Easy said, I did question him, because I don't know, like if any fan or anyone covering the team for a bit, you're like, okay, if you don't have the personnel, you have to find a way to still get stops and pressure the quarterback. And he ended up switching it and doing it. And he started sending everything he had at them and said, all right, we just don't have the secondary and the corners to guard. Let's just give up these yards and we'll just send people at the quarterback. And that's what they did. And it ended up working out to a point to where just give up a bunch of yards and we'll get to the quarterback and hopefully stop them in the red zone. And it worked. So like credit to him. Now that he has the players to kind of work with, I think he's going to be able to put something together to be able to do both. Like now you can send pressure and you have a legit secondary with Terrion now and some of these guys in the back end. Like I think this could be a big jump. I think it can be. I'm very confident.
Think about what Aaron Glenn's strength of what his defense wants to be. Think about what he was in the NFL, a corner. His corners and secondaries, and that's been the weakness of this team. So that's why even when the team was just getting scraped up by opposing offenses, I'm like, what do you want this dude to do? Like, there's nothing he really can. He can't suit up and go out there and make him play. Juju Hughes is not manning up on Justin Jefferson. It's not going to work out in any situation, zone or man. The dude's cooked. He had nothing he could do. He's trying 1,000 things and seeing what shit would stick to the wall. And he finally did, and you saw success.
Yeah, I just saw Easy. Is it true, by the way, Easy, that Aaron Glenn saw the Defend the Glenn stuff and thanked him? Is that true? Calvin Shepard showed him. I'm sorry, I'm curious now. It's kind of bad.
I don't know.
All right, okay. Okay. Well, that's a side note. But Steve Lehman said, what are your guys' thoughts on the latest Tua rumblings of him and the Dolphins not coming to terms with his extension and possibly traded to the Vikings? It's recently resurfaced in the rumor mill. Well, I think the first half of the first part is true. Second half of that first part, I don't think is true. I don't think the Vikings would trade for him given they just drafted J.J. McCarthy. But yeah, I don't know. Tua.
I hope to God it would be true. Could you imagine seeing Tua in the NFC North? He'd be so bad. Whenever he plays in any type of bad terrain, and I know the Lions are in a dome.
Yeah,
I'm saying
that's
when
fair.
he goes to Lambeau and he goes to Chicago, like that's a loss. Doesn't
that's
matter if they have
tough.
Justin Jefferson. And again, when he's under pressure, I'm not saying him and Goff are the same tier, but when Goff is under pressure, he's a much worse quarterback. Tua is the same conversation. When he can hit Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle in wide open zones, yeah, you're going to have the highest completion percentage. But when you need to make a 2-minute drive in crunch time, he ain't the guy you want.
To be honest, I think the bigger story with that is that they're not willing to pay him the money, because that was someone I thought was going to get a Jared Goff type deal. So that's interesting as well.
Yeah, if I'm the Dolphins, I know they had a good quarterback in years, but I don't know if he's a guy you're paying close to 64 with one concussion, he could be out.
What do you think the difference is if Tua Tagovailoa is the quarterback in Miami compared to Jacoby Brissett, win-wise? I don't think there's that much.
I think it's a couple wins.
I think maybe Tua gets one, maybe two, but there's not that big of a difference.
I mean, I think Tua's fine. Like he's good.
Like, do you want me to be honest?
But not
would I rather take like Tua or like Baker Mayfield? Either one. Like,
yeah, I'm
a Baker fan. I'll take Baker. Baker's an
that's
absolute
actually
dog.
a good. You know what? I don't hate that. I wouldn't mind Baker either.
Shout out Jeff Olson in the chat. Like, I'm taking Baker. I think Baker's done a good job, and he's taken a team to the playoffs and like essentially won a game of the playoffs. Correct? Like he beat the Eagles. So.
Yeah, it's like Tua has done a good job of game managing, but when they get to anywhere where it's below like 70 degrees, it's just they break down.
Yeah, but like he has Mike McDaniels, who's one of the best play callers in the entire NFL. So it's he has, like Klotz says, Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill, and also two elite running backs who are the fastest in the NFL. Like his offense is set up to be successful. You can that's why I think the Dolphins are a little hesitant on paying him, because they're sitting there and they're going like, hey, there are a handful of NFL quarterbacks out there right now that we probably can just plug and play for you here, because we have done such a good job of building this offense up and paying the weapons and spending money on the weapons. So we're like, hey, Tua, guess what? We really don't have to spend that much money on you. Like we don't. Like we'll move on and we'll go get a guy that has like a Baker Mayfield situation where when Baker ended up getting out of Cleveland, the Bucks and some other teams were able to get him a little cheaper. Like we could just go do that and get a $30 million quarterback that's going to probably have the same production. Why not? I mean, like why not? I don't know who's out there, but that's what I would do.
Well, let's get to Jake Bates. Speaking to the doc, it's this is on All Lions and at Detroit Podcast on X, and John McElroy got Jake Bates, and that's big time. That's a big time interview from him. So shout out to Doc for that. Let's react to this clip of Jake Bates discussing why he chose the Detroit Lions, because he had offers and he ultimately chose to stay in Michigan. So let's hear from Jake Bates and why he made that decision.
How was it visiting with the Lions when you had the opportunity, and what set them apart from other teams that maybe were interested in you?
Yeah, I mean, I think just when you walk into the building, just the feel of it, the culture that the coaching staff has brought in, and just the buzz around the city, the excitement for the team. I mean, there's so many things, so many intangible things that I think go into it with the feeling around the Lions right now. Obviously last season was awesome for them. And I just can't wait to get up there and help in any way I can to hopefully do well for this city and, have a lot of fun doing it with a really good team.
Yeah, no doubt. And to share with you from our experience, Coach Dave Phipp is one of the most unique interviews that we've had an opportunity to go out there. Makes it really on a weekly basis, really intriguing, interesting. And over the last couple of years being around him, can you share just your early impressions of him and what he shared with you as you embark on a journey now for a training camp battle?
Yeah, no, I love my meetings with Coach Phipp. He was awesome when I was there. Just being able to pick his brain. Obviously, he's done it at a really high level for a long time, and just being able to play for someone like that gets me super excited. And anything that I can do to help, just this organization, and that's taking a chance on me, I'm super excited to do. But yeah, Coach Phipp was awesome. He called me right after I signed and just talked about how, can't wait to get to work. Obviously, there's going to be competition at this position, but, anywhere you go, there's going to be competition. And I know Badgley is a really good kicker and has been for some time now. And, man, I'm just excited to learn what I can from him and from Jack Fox and Scott Daly and all the other guys, just, learn from them and hopefully come in and do my job.
Well, wait. You guys hear that?
What's that, Hefe?
No, it's Michael Badgley shutting the door on his way out. You guys hear that?
Oh my gosh.
Jake Bates is coming for that job, ladies and gentlemen. Are you kidding me? Come on.
You guys hear that?
The confidence. All right. I respect Badgley. Very fine kicker. But Jake Bates, I'm excited. I don't think he's going to, I'm not saying he's going to be better than the best kicker in the league, but I think they got a good kicker, man. I like Jake Bates. Got a cannon of a leg, and they play majority of their games inside this year. So
I just like, cool. I like how, I think I've said this a million times about Jake Bates. He didn't kick before being with the Michigan Panthers. He kicked, but he didn't kick field goals. And the question mark behind it all, with Jeff, you kept questioning, every time I would talk about Jake Bates was like, can he kick in NFL settings? He's never kicked before. What's it going to be like when he kicks in NFL settings and big crowds and in the NFL, like a high pressure kick? I think the fact that he's just now able to focus on kicking field goals with Dave Phipp and learn from Michael Badgley, as soon as he starts learning the ins and outs and the tricks of field goal kicking within the NFL, he has the talent. That's not in question. He's kicked 60+ yard field goals consistently with the Michigan Panthers. Now it's put it all together to where those misses that he had down the stretch with Michigan, that he's not having those misses here in Detroit. And I think once he gets with Dave Phipp and these guys, all right, give this guy an off season to get ready and kind of actually get his talent honed in. It's over. This guy, he's so talented. It's over. I don't see how he doesn't end up working out. It's like Michael Badgley should be a little scared. I have to work with this guy and teach this guy my tips and tricks. And I know he's more talented than me. And I know as soon as he gets it down, because he has the leg and the talent, he's just going to take my job. That's my money. I would be a little bit worried in the back of my head if I'm Michael Badgley. But we want competition in the room. Brad Holmes says competition's great. That's why we have such a deep corner room now, is because we want the comp. And now we have it in the kicking room, which I love. I'm locked in on that, Klotzy.
Hey, he owns real estate in Badgley's head. That's
Lots
what it is.
That's
what it is.
I gotta see it first. I know you guys are all ecstatic and stuff, but I have gotta see it first. I agree with you, he has the talent, but my God, Booner, to your point, he hasn't kicked in the NFL. He didn't kick in college. He's playing soccer in college. So the intangibles are there. But I do just think there's a whole part of kicking in the NFL that is mental, and you don't have project kickers. You have 3 or 4 games if you can't figure it out, and if not, you're on the streets. So Michael Badgley, I know he's not as talented, but I can promise you, especially year one, he's going to be a lot more consistent. And I'm not rooting on Jake Bates' downfall, but I just think that I'm with you on the excitement.
Brandon Aubrey, it was literally the same. Brandon Aubrey was literally the same exact position as Jake Bates. He was a soccer player who had no experience kicking field goals.
Name me another one besides Brendan Aubrey.
You can't because we just the USFL and all of these leagues, you just started getting kickers from them within the last year or two, and this is the second back-to-back years. Detroit Lions, if they end up getting the Brandon Aubrey of this year, you're extremely happy.
Yeah, I think in all seriousness,
I'm breaking up.
I think he'll beat Michael Badgley out for the job. There is skepticism. I get it, translating in the NFL, but I maybe it's just me overreacting, putting a little too much stock into what the Lions have not had, which is a kicker with a capable leg for more than 30 to 40 yards, occasionally 50. like someone that can knock down a 60-yard field goal if need be. Like that intrigues me. So, that's the angle I'm coming from.
I do my balance beam here all the time that I do. This is Jake Bates. This is his ceiling. See how I didn't move my other hand? That's Michael Badgley's ceiling.
That's fair.
The floors might be a little different, like where the floors are at, but
Yep.
Jake Bates' ceiling is up here. His ceiling is Brandon Aubrey, and may I say it, a Justin Tucker type of leg, like talent-wise leg, because we've seen him kick those, like make those kicks, those 64-yard kicks. So like that's not crazy for me to say, but the floor, it's can he get to that ceiling?
Yeah, and playing in front of a crowd with 60,000 is definitely a place to start. We went to the Panthers game this year and saw Jake Bates, and we didn't see a 60-plus yard field goal, which he hit earlier in the season, but he talked about his perspective on hitting a 60-plus yard field goal and kind of what happened after that. We got to hear from Jake Bates here on that. So let's get to that clip, and then we'll get to his thoughts on the love he's gotten from Michigan, because he's obviously a Michigan favorite here, played for the Michigan Panthers.
Oh, yeah.
So let's get to the first clip about him hitting that 60-plus yard field goal.
Fast forward to 2024, you're with the Michigan Panthers, and it's week 1. You're up against the St. Louis Battlehawks, and it's a critical moment. And this is your first field goal attempt. You didn't attempt one in college, your first attempt in a couple years, and it's a 64-yarder for the game. Take us through, what are you thinking at that moment, because you're thrown right into the fire in week 1 of your debut with the Michigan Panthers?
Yeah, it was kind of like a out of body experience almost. It was like, I can't believe that I'm here. Like, this is just crazy, the way it all happened. But I mean, I knew that if I hit a good ball, it's probably going to get there, and just keep it between the uprights. And so before that drive, I went up to the quarterback and I was like, "Hey, EJ," it was EJ Perry, and I was like, "EJ, get to the 40, like 45, I think was the line that I wanted." So it would have been like a 63. And I kind of thought, that's a good line for me. And so they got the ball to the 46, I guess, to make it a 64. And at that point, it's just kind of like, just trust your swing, trust what I've been doing. I've seen myself do it before. So, what's different now that there's just a couple more eyes on me. And so it was kind of just, just trust your swing, trust the work you've put in, and have fun with it, man. It's a sport. Have fun with it. If you don't make it more than it is, and luckily got to see it go through, and that was that.
Yeah, and I like his perspective. I will say I like his perspective, right? Just a couple more people in there. It's going to be a lot more than a couple this year. But to his point about his job, is he's now with the Michigan Panthers kicking big-time field goals. He was essentially a big part of their offense. He was like, I don't know where he was in ranking, but he was one of the MVP candidates. He might have been like top 5, whatever it was.
He was top 3 for the longest.
Yeah, top 3. There you go. So he was relied on heavily to kick and make them, and from distance as well. Like Booner, the point about the fans that I make and I've been making is fair, because it's something that we need to be skeptical of. But what you can't take away from him is kicking meaningful kicks. Like I get, because it's tunnel vision for him. Like, yeah, there's a crowd, but he has to make this kick. There's been multiple times this year where he's had to make a kick, and he did it. So more fans. Yeah, Boone, I'm going to be a little more. I want to see it, but I can't deny the dude's kicked pressure kicks and has made them from 60+ yards. Like that. Yeah, that happened.
A 64-yard game winner, no matter what. Whether like you have,
I don't care if it's
30,000 fans. Yeah, like 30,000 fans or 4,000 fans, like no matter what, a 64-yard game winner, that's tough. And I think like a situation, the thing that stands out to me the most is him going up to their quarterback. What did he say? EJ Perry, and going up and being like, "Hey, just get me here and I'll win the game for us." Like that confidence to me is what you want in a kicker, no matter what environment you're in. There's going to be NFL games. Like you go to play in Carolina, there's probably going to be the same amount of fans in Carolina as there is at a UFL game. So, like, no offense there, because in Detroit, no, actually, we've always had fans, but it's been tough. But, like, you're going to have different scenarios in different spots. And, yeah, with the Detroit Lions right now, You have a team that's contending for a Super Bowl. So
Right.
yeah, it's going to be a lot of high pressure, but like the process doesn't change. Going through all of that doesn't change. And if you guys want to bring to me and say, oh, well, I don't know if he's going to be able to handle that pressure. Guess what he has that I think is going to, it sets people apart, is I think he has Dan Campbell, who Dan Campbell is one of the best coaches in the NFL and will make sure that this man is prepared for every situation mentally.
Dude. He's a
Day
legend.
fit. Yes, like we have some of the best coaches in the entire NFL to where mentally, if that's the only problem you're worried about, I don't look at that because he's going to have the same process he did before. It's about just getting consistent. I don't think mentally he's going to be weak enough or too weak to go out there in a game-winning scenario and miss because he's too weak. It's more so for me, him getting his leg consistent and making kicks consistently. Like that's all I think. And once he does that, I think mentally he's able to zone that stuff out because he's proven it. He was an MVP candidate as a kicker. Like that's alone that shows it. Like I went back and I looked at some of his missed kicks down the stretch. I think maybe one or two of them might have actually been blocked. So like that shows a little bit like maybe he isn't as bad as people think, because I saw the percentage. Oh, he kicked 75%. Well, you got to put in an account. Some might have been blocked. Just different scenarios. So like I think once he gets consistent, I just like his confidence, to be honest. Like the fact he has the ceiling he has, and then he has the confidence to go up to your quarterback and say, just get me here and we're going to win the game. Like I love that. That's one of the best things. That's a Dan Campbell guy.
Yeah, well, let's get to the next clip just to wrap this up, because he talked about the fan base, and we were there. 9,000, well, almost 10,000 people in attendance.
Yeah.
And that was, I think, one of the highest attended games. So, again, it's going to be like quadruple more than that for Lions games. But here is his perspective on the love he's gotten from Michigan fans from Michigan. So let's get to that clip, and then we'll wrap this up. But hey, again, shout out to Doc, man. It was a great interview.
Great interview,
Let's
man.
hear what he had to say.
And did you get a sense clearly as you'd walk off the field? There were clearly Panthers fans. There were also Lions fans in the stand saying, "Hey, hope the Lions bring you to the roster." Did you get a sense of just how much Lions fans gravitated towards you and how much they were clamoring online and sending messages to reporters and just making noise that, hey, we hope that when the season ends or however Jake Bates can get on this roster? Did you get a sense of how much the Lions fans actually wanted you to join this football team?
Yeah, I definitely felt a lot of love. I think it was really cool to feel. And as part of it, Detroit really felt like home. Even outside of all that stuff, it just felt good. And there's no real feeling, or there's no real like words to describe what that feeling is. It just felt good there. And I mean, the people there were awesome. Obviously, can't let yourself listen to that too much because you never know. But no, it was awesome. My dad and my brothers and my mom, when they would come to games and see the fans or the fans online, they, like I said, them and my friends had a little bit more fun with all that stuff than I did. But no, I mean, I definitely felt the love, and I'm super, super excited to be in such a football heavy city that loves the Lions and supports the Lions. And I just can't wait to be a part of it.
Yeah, we were there. We got to see some of the fans' response. I'm going to play this clip that's on our Twitter of Jake Bates going to the tunnel. He is
people loved him in Detroit here.
Yeah, he was no question a fan favorite. And again, it kind of speaks to the Lions kicker situation. But look at this clip, like this. I mean, this right, just Ken Bates. I mean, this is the type of impact that this man has made. So again, we're excited. Nothing's guaranteed. Still has to go take the job. We understand.
I think it's something too in Detroit to where, like, for so long, for 40 years, we don't win anything. Like Lions fans have been waiting to win something. And one of the good things that has, like, consistently in Detroit over the last 30 years was Jason Hanson and Matt Prater. Like, you've always just had someone who can make field goals at a consistent level and anywhere on the field. Like, you've had that for so long, and now that the team's actually good, and I know Dan Campbell has adapted to a little bit more of a different type of aggressiveness where you don't kick those field goals, so it's not as big of a deal. But they're like the NFC Championship game. There's been scenarios where you're like, a consistent leg would be really nice. Like that, we talk about it all the time. How some of these guys, these elite teams that contend, have such good kickers, and they're always able to lean back on that. And it's like you just constantly think as Lions fans, if we had Jason Hanson or Matt Prater, we would like that would change everything on this team. And I think like Jake Bates is like that hope that like you can get back to a kicker like that, especially with the ceiling. That's what I think kind of this all like solidifies and kind of like shows a little bit.
Well, another question, Mark, that many people brought up, maybe not many, but people have brought up, is the wide receiver room. And Jeff Risdon, very reliable source. He went on Detroit Lions podcast, which they do great work. And he said this, which Michael Lucci's put out. Shout out to Michael, man. He's amazing. He tweeted out, the Lions have told at least one agent of a free agent wide receiver they're not in the market. I repeat, they're not in the market. Quote, you will not see other wide receivers brought in. Agents have asked. Detroit not interested in bringing in any receivers at this point. Jeff Risdon said that quote. Fellas, what's your what do you make of that?
Klotz, I'm gonna let you go. What do you think? Because you guys already know where I'm at with this.
Very timely.
I think at least that's probably the immediate thing. I think Brad Holmes hears all the noise, and he's always been a guy that's been pretty accountable both in press conferences and just with the roster and what's going on. And I think that they're right now focused on the defensive end room more than anything, as they should be. I still think there's a possibility that Brad Holmes is like, you know what? No, we could bring in a Denzel Mims type of player. Like I still think they will bring in body during camp, but right now I just don't think it's an immediate need compared defensive end and or tackle depth, because truly after the tackle position too, you have nobody. If you were to lose Amon-Ra St. Brown, knock on wood, for a game, I have trust that Khalif Raymond can go out there and get 4 catches for 60 yards. Donovan Peoples-Jones can go out there 2 catches for 20 yards, and you can find a way to fill up Amon-Ra stat production. But if Panay or Taylor Decker goes down, good God. If Aidan Hutchinson goes down for a game, good God. There's just nobody there. So I'm assuming they're looking at the defensive end spot.
Yeah, I know we've had this conversation. Yeah, this is a little shocking to say the least. And I want people to know this too. Like I don't think the way I look at this wide receiver room, it's not that I think it's like you have to bring someone in. Like it's not. I just think if there's an opportunity that approaches yourself where there's a player, a free agent out there, or a trade scenario to where, hey, you can upgrade some pieces on this in this locker room, I think that's like something you can take a look at and you're like, okay. The only reason, like, if you do just look at this roster and this wide receiver room, last season there was 4,600 total yards of receiving on this Lions offense, which I think was like 3rd or 4th in the entire NFL. Like 4,600 is an insane amount. You return everyone in that 4,600 room besides one player, and that's Josh Reynolds at 600 yards. So you're returning essentially over 4,000 receiving yards from last season. So I do think there's a sense to where they do feel a little bit of trust and like comfort. I think when you take Josh Reynolds out and you're like, all right, we need Jahmyr to step up. I think he does it. But then, okay, now we need the DPJ or the Antoine Green or whoever it is to kind of take that next step, or someone to just show out and give you another look in that room. I think that's where they feel a little comfortable. And you know, we're not in practice every day. We're not in Allen Park every day. We're not evaluating this team every day. I think they must have a feeling that one of these guys will take that step forward. Now, if they don't in training camp, I think those conversations with agents do change a little bit to where if people do reach out to them and they realize, you know, those back end guys aren't stepping up, okay, we can have a conversation with a free agent or someone. That's where I think that's where like a day ago when I had the conversation with you, Jeff, and we got in that argument last Friday, I think like the terms that I'm using is let's keep an eye out on this wide receiver room come training camp. Like that battle is going to be important for this team, in my opinion.
Yeah, which I honestly don't hate that take. I think the big thing, and I mentioned this last week, defensive end, offensive line. And it's not like those are easy. I'm not trying to say like, oh, just go fix it, because offensive line depth, a lot of teams struggle with that. I mean, even the Lions, they have the best offensive line in the league, and we're still talking about offensive line depth. Like that should give you a little hint to what the rest of the league is dealing with. So it's not the end of the world. It is concerning. I mean, you mentioned it with Aidan Hutchinson. Yeah, like he's one of your best, if not your best player on defense. No, he is your best player. So yeah, if he goes down, yeah, you're going to be in a tough spot. But wide receiver, like any spot, I mean, you bring it up. I would say tight end. Like Sam Laporta goes down, yeah, you're worried. Not saying they have to add a tight end, but like if you lose one of your best players, you're gonna be worried like that. Yeah. So I understand. I just have more question marks on the other side of Aidan. And that's probably why I keep bringing up these different defensive ends that the Lions should target at the deadline. Because, like, that's where my mind is at. I'm with you, Boone, and I know Lukas mentioned this too. Like, I wouldn't be mad if they brought in another body in the wide receiver room. I'm fine with who they have currently. Like, and maybe that's still my belief in DPJ. But to your point, Boone, yeah, the battle they have, it's going to be interesting to watch. I mean, that's kind of what people should be watching because every other position – like is pretty much, I don't want to say set because defensive line will be a battle too, but like offensive line, you know who's starting. Wide receiver, you know it's Amon-Ra, and you know Jahmyr should take that wide receiver 2 role. But after that, you're like, I wonder who's going to compete to be that third guy. So like, I think that's fair. You know,
I think it's like obvious you're going to need like someone's got to step up. Like, and we do think it's going to be Jameson Williams who's going to step up and have a big season. And then outside of him too, someone's going to have to take the Jahmyr role from last year, those 300 or 400 yards. So they're like, if Jahmyr's replacing Josh Reynolds, all right, who's replacing Jahmyr and who's going to take the next and kind of fill that? You have to fill it in completely. So like, I do think I had the conversation and we put the reel out of talking about Khalif Raymond. I do think Khalif Raymond is a big piece to this offense, more than people actually give him credit for. Like, I think he's a massive piece of this offense, and he doesn't get talked about enough. Just because it's Khalif Raymond and people look at him as kind of a wide receiver 4, but in games he makes big time plays. He consistently is getting 400 or 500 yards a year for you the last 2 or 3 years, and he's one of the most consistent players on your entire football team when it comes to kind of just going out there and working. So I do think that they're able to fill guys in. Again, it just comes down to, do you feel comfortable with the depth? Because last year Jahmyr was out at times, Amon-Ra was out for a game. You know, Josh Reynolds at times potentially. Like there's like guys who are going to be out. You are going to need some players to kind of fill in and fill a void throughout the year. Like that's and I'm not talking about a guy going down for the season. I'm talking about there's going to be times where you need guys to step up throughout the year. Last year with Josh Reynolds, the back end guys were the Khalif Raymonds and guys who stepped up. Now those are the guys filling in those bigger roles. Now you need guys to fill in those roles to step up. And when those guys go down, do you see what I'm saying there? Like it's like it's a little bit of a domino effect.
I think there's also a point too where Jared Goff probably is going to be throwing for 4,600 yards this year. He's probably going to be throwing for like 4,400 just because the defense is better. There's not much pressure on him to get down the field with the ball as much. I think they're going to be running the ball more. So production wise, I understand what you're saying as far as the domino effect, but I also think production, it's not going to be the same as last year. I think offensively, they're going to be in a different type of situation given the defense is a lot better.
Well, Mike Payton put out a projection for Amon-Ra.
This was interesting.
Yeah, and Mike Payton, he put this out last year, and he did his projection. And I don't really know.
Can we pull up his whole article? Because I think he did all of the players. I didn't read the whole thing.
Well, let's get with Amon-Ra because it relates to this wide receiver room, and then I'll look at the other stuff because I didn't look at the rest of the players he projected, but he projected Amon-Ra. In this tweet he put out says, we projected in 2023 that Amon-Ra St. Brown would get 115 catches, 1,515 yards, and 10 TDs. He got 119 catches, 1,515 yards, and 10 TDs. So he got the yards and TDs correct. They're projecting this year 125 catches, 1,600 yards, and 12 TDs in 2024. So, more yards, more TDs, more catches. And we've had this conversation, and you just kind of mentioned it, Lukas, with the defense improving. This is where I'm at with it. And when I read this, I think Amon-Ra St. Brown is capable of accomplishing statistically what other great wide receivers do, depending on the offense he's in. I think he's capable. Like if he was in, Dallas and playing that CD Lamb role, they're different, a little different wide receivers, but I think he can, if you give that man 180, 190 targets, like, yeah, the dude's going to have a great year. But here's the but. I just think in this offense, they're run first. They have a better defense. And you have two great running backs. I think the best duo in the league. I don't know if he'll get 1,600. If he gets 1,600 yards, more catches, more yards, more TDs, I would argue that someone didn't step up, or their defense might not be as good. They're in more shootouts. Like something went wrong, in my opinion. Am I off on that?
Because we talk about a player that could take another step, and it could be Amon-Ra. And the thing is with Amon-Ra too, is he's so easy to get the ball to. Like even if you look at a guy like a CeeDee Lamb, like I think Amon-Ra St. Brown's easier to get the ball to. So for him to take a jump in production, I think it takes less route running, less game planning, just because Amon-Ra and Jared Goff, they have the good chemistry, and Amon-Ra knows how to find the opening and manipulate the coverage. So with a player like him, I think he's a guy that could go get 100+ catches in any situation just because how good he is. Now, maybe he won't be as good and impactful for those teams as he is with the Detroit Lions, but he's still a guy that can go out there and get 100+ catches anywhere. So the fact that Josh Reynolds leaving, could that give Amon-Ra St. Brown 10 more catches? Yeah, I think so. Could that give him potentially 2 more touchdowns? Yeah, I think so. Could that give him 85 more yards? Yeah, I think so. So I don't think it's out of the picture, but I am kind of leaning towards you, Jeff. I think he stays around the same. But if he like all those numbers, like as far as the increase, like it's really not that much of an increase outside of 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, I guess it isn't.
Do you guys remember the conversation we had like a couple weeks back where I think I was making the argument about Amon-Ra and Sam Laporta, their numbers getting increased because that press conference with Ben Johnson, and he came out and he was asked, hey, how is this replacement going to happen with Josh Reynolds? And the way he responded to it was, there's going to be other guys who are going to get more touches. And he was like, whether that's Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, and he even said potentially Jahmyr Gibbs in different spots like the slot, whatever that means, we're going to find ways without bringing another guy in to be able to do that. And that was when I think we went on the show the next day and I made the statement to where Ben Johnson's saying it. I felt like maybe Amon-Ra St. Brown has a bigger year because he knows, hey, we're down a guy. Like we lost Josh Reynolds. Other guys are going to step up, but that gives him, like, you guys know Amon-Ra St. Brown's mindset too. Like he's always like, I need to get better and better and better. And he's never going to stop. So him going into this year, it's like, how can he improve? He's going to get more opportunities and more touches. And I think it's the same thing with Sam Laporta and the same thing like a Jahmyr Gibbs. Now there's a cap on how many yards we can hand out and throw out there. But I do think if there's guys, if I had to pick like 2 guys who are going to increase this year, I would go Amon-Ra St. Brown to make that jump from 1,500 to 1,600. And I would say Sam Laporta from 850 to 1,000. Like that would be like, I would bet on that. That would be my bets if I had to make a bet on any massive jumps this year. And obviously the JMO one, but I'm talking about like incremental.
Yeah, I mean, those are 2 most reliable players in the passing game. So I mean, I understand that. I mean, it's just, I am curious how this unfolds. I mean, the conversation about a better defense. How does this offense look if you have more if you have more leads, which you're running the football? You know, not saying they're only going to run the football, but they have a tougher schedule, so they're probably going to be in more close games, which therefore you're probably going to throw the ball late in the game. Just depends. But they are a run first offense, so like, and you don't really know what they're going to get out of JMO, so there's that too. Like, there's just a lot of, if he increases, what is it, like 85 yards increase? Like, it's probably not like the most egregious thing.
Yeah,
I think
they are a run first.
They're
a run first offense, but still like a run first offense where Amon-Ra St. Brown already had 120 catches and Laporta 80 something. Like so I think like that you have to use the weapons at hand. Yeah, and I think that's where like how you're gonna get in these games now where you have a better defense. Yeah, maybe you can run the ball more and you control the clock. But that opens up, I think it opens up even more things, more opportunities. Like giving the ball to Jahmyr Gibbs now, like we know Jahmyr is going to take that step forward. Now teams are going to have to account for that, which opens up Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta even more now. Like this offense just takes another step forward. And I think some of these guys will benefit a ton from it.
Yeah, and the TDs I do agree with. I mean, no Josh Reynolds. I think Laporta and Amon-Ra could increase in TDs. I do. I think that's something that's fair. Given that one of your more reliable red zone threats is no longer there, and when the field shrinks and you're in the red zone, if they're not running the football, the ball's going to 14 or to Sam Laporta. Like I'm not that. That's how. So I understand the TDs and the yard. The yards aren't too far off, but JMO is probably the biggest question mark. And I'm going to stay consistent. I think he gets double the production he had last year. So if that's 700, 800 yards, whatever it is, that's where I'm at with it. I don't think he gets 1,000 this year, just given that it's a well-oiled machine. That's what this offense is.
I do think the offense is scary. Like, if you really do break it down, like, you have the number one offensive line in the NFL. You have Jared Goff, who's a very good vet who knows, he knows exactly what to do in play calling and kind of adjustments. And then you have behind him, you're going to have Jahmyr Gibbs, probably one of the most lethal running backs in the entire NFL, right there behind Christian McCaffrey. And then you have Khalif Raymond, Jamison Williams, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Sam Laporta. Like, those, when you do break it down, I know I've been someone who's like, let's bring a wide receiver in. When you just break down like the top weapons that you have on this offense, it's one of the scariest offenses in the entire NFL. Like, this offense is, and then at the top of that, you have Ben Johnson controlling the whole thing and running the show. And that's scary. Like, defenses are like scared of that. And then you have David Montgomery coming in still. Like, what are you going to do? Yeah. And hopefully you get some other weapons that are able to kind of step up. But that's a tough offense.
Well, speaking of tough, Booner, you have a question today that I think we should get to now. It's a tough question.
Now?
Yeah. Like, what do you got for us? Last time you asked us a question, it was a good conversation. So what do you have for us today?
All right. I like this. This is a good one. Then this kind of leads into the training camp stuff after, because I know we have the training camp stuff in a little bit. This is a defensive question, fellas. And Klotz, I thought of you when I thought of this. But I was thinking about the defense, and I know we already spoke about Aaron Glenn taking a step forward. I just want to specifically just want your guys' mind to go to the secondary here, because that has been in the conversation we had with AG is, can he control the secondary and kind of take a step forward? I want to know now that you have the secondary that the Detroit Lions do. Terrion Arnold, Carlton Davis, Kirby Joseph, Brian Branch, Amik Robertson, like on and on and on and on. Where do you guys see, like, genuinely by the end of the season, where do you guys see this Detroit Lions secondary ranking among secondaries throughout the NFL? Like, I was thinking about this morning, because if it ends up being like a top 10 secondary, I think this defense is easily a top 10 defense, because I think it all comes down to the secondary. Like, I think, like I said, the Super Bowl runs through this defense. I think if you add another layer to it, the Super Bowl runs through this secondary. Like, if this secondary can step up and be who we think, like, can this be a top 5 secondary? Can it be top 10, top 15? Like, where do you guys see the secondary being?
Well, I'll start off by saying it. No way in hell it's top 5. I think their floor is top 15 just based off the personnel they have and the depth. Because in years past, like, people were like, well, maybe they could be top 15. Like, people last year were saying this could be a top 15 secondary because if you look at the safety room. But if you really look at the Detroit Lions roster, they have guys sprinkled around it, not proven like cornerback ones, but they have legit NFL players at the starting point in their secondary, and even with like Amik Robertson sinking down there as well. And then you look in the draft with the DBs, they took Terrion Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw are perfect scheme fits. I think every defensive back that they have is a perfect scheme fit for Aaron Glenn, and you have a player in Brian Branch who can go and play all 3 levels of the secondary if you want him to. So if this secondary is not a top 15 unit, it's a failure in my opinion, especially when you look at adding DJ Reader. I think that's going to help the secondary out a lot because it's going to give quarterbacks less time. Like Aleem McNeil and Aidan Hutchinson are going to go crazy this year. We all expect that. Jack Campbell going to take another step. Alex Anzalone, we even think can take another step. I do at least. Mm-hmm. This team is going to improve, and the secondary is going to be benefiting from it. So top 10 to 15 secondary, I think.
And I think that's a great take, actually. Top 15 is probably the floor. I think they should be top 10 to 12, realistically. That's where I'm at. I think that's a good place to be. PFF ranked secondaries. You want to go through it? I just found the article. It just came out.
Well, we'll love to. I was just interested this morning because I remember hearing a stat or a conversation that I heard a couple months back in regards to Super Bowl teams. I think you might have brought it up, Jeff, about Super Bowl teams with their secondary, like giving up passing yards, and where do these secondaries and passing defense rank among Super Bowl winners and NFC championship winners and all of those like conference winners. And I feel like I think Klotz, I'm with you. I think like it's the floor is top 15. I think it needs to be a top 10 secondary for you to sit there and say we can go win a Super Bowl. Well, I think it comes down to that.
I think it needs to be a top 15, but I do think top 10. You're like, oh yeah.
There's a need to it though, because like you look at some of the matchups, like you won a couple you won the playoff games this year. If you have a top 10 secondary, that 49er situation doesn't happen. And then you even go even further in the Super Bowl. If you have a top 10 secondary with the top 5 offense that you have, that makes it that much easier to go out there and win.
Well, I would argue, and this is what I brought up not weeks, it probably at this point months, because we talked about it before. It depends. What defensive line are you working with? I would ask that too. That's why it's tough to just compare secondaries. You got to compare defenses, because what are these secondaries? You might have a talented secondary, but if you don't have a pass rush, those guys are toast. And that's the other point is, like, Kansas City had a great secondary. They did, but they also had a very, very good pass rush.
Yeah.
So that helps. Like so you need it. You need both, but ideally you need to get to the quarterback. So it depends. Like, where they'll be ranked in terms of passing yards given up. Where are they going to be ranked in sacks and pressures and all of that? We know Aidan's really great, but everyone else. So, like, we do agree there. I want to go through this article.
What was the stat? The stat where it was like this many Super Bowl winners or conference champions?
It was sacks.
Top 10. Okay, and there was one too as well with total defense, I think. I'm going to go back and look.
Yeah,
and we can bring that later this week or next week while we're in June here or July, and kind of rank that out there and kind of get a feel for that.
Well, let's go through and kind of break down this list, because number one is the New York Jets, according to PFF, ranking this upcoming NFL season, all the secondaries. And I think this is fair. I'm not really going to argue much with this. I think the Jets have the best secondary. I mean, they have the best corner, so that helps also. DJ Reed, I think they have the best corner duo, to be honest with you. DJ Reed and Sauce Gardner, but they're number one. Number two is the 49ers, which
I don't know if I like that. I really don't.
That's where
Davis Ward's like,
he's
not even a top 5 guy. Like, they had Ambry Thomas out there getting cooked last year for him. They really didn't upgrade it that much.
Yeah, they were
I think
14th.
the weakness of the 49ers whole team, if it's not the offensive line, it's the cornerback spot. And this is what I hate. Like, I'm sorry to do a PFF rant right now, but Isaac Yoder,
I get it.
80.4. This is what I don't understand, okay? Like, if you're a cornerback or a safety and you're playing cover 2, your job is to cover the flats. So if a receiver is running a fade down the sideline, you don't run with him. But their offensive coordinators, their job is to break zone coverage. So if a quarterback throws a cover 2 hole shot, which is designed to break cover 2, where the corner can't do anything about it, it hurts his PFF grade, but he's literally doing his job. So that's where, like, PFF with secondary players, it makes no sense, because they're acting like they know what the defensive coordinator's calling, and you don't, like, whatsoever. So I don't understand how they compute this stuff. It makes no sense.
Yeah, well,
and the 49ers were 14th in passing yards given up last year. So, like, to have them second is ridiculous.
Well, the Buffalo Bills third. Okay. Fourth.
I was told they have a bad secondary.
Oh, now PFF fits the narrative. That's
pick and choose.
pick
and choose.
Baltimore Ravens coming at 4. I don't hate this. I think they should be higher, to be honest. I like their secondary.
They need to be 2.
I agree. I agree.
If the Chiefs aren't 2, the Ravens should be 2, and I haven't even seen the fucking Chiefs yet. This is insanity.
Yeah, the Chiefs aren't even top 5. That's crazy.
Well, at number 5, the Miami Dolphins. They had Jalen Ramsey.
Like,
yeah, I honestly don't hate
Kendall Fuller, Klotzy. Kendall Fuller, Klotzy.
But Javon Holland, Jordan Poyer, Jalen Ramsey. I like their little collection of corners. And they got who's the guy out of South Carolina, Cam Smith. They drafted. I like him. I still do. Number 6, Cleveland Browns. They got a good secondary. Seattle Seahawks. I don't have an issue with this one either.
Not at all. Yeah.
8, Green Bay Packers. I don't hate this at all. I think they should be high on there. Kansas City
loves the Packers secondary. That's confirmed. The Kansas City Chiefs.
I do like a lot of
the Kansas City Chiefs are high up there. Yep, they do. They lost L'Jarius Sneed, but so I guess that should hurt them, and it did. They're 9, but they should still be top 10.
Yeah.
You go to 10, the New Orleans Saints, and then number 11 is the Detroit Lions. They're 11 on this list. So maybe you could argue a spot higher.
Top 15. Like,
so
who's
12,
in the same tier as them?
Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Cowboys.
12. Dallas Cowboys, 13. Cincinnati Bengals 14, and Tennessee Titans 15.
Can you go back to the Lions list too? I do think like there's an argument to where like you could be like, look at the amount of pieces that they've added. If some of these pieces work out, the Lions could jump up in this list, I think. Like I don't think there's, especially like Klotz, your point earlier in the show about AG, like he's a corner. He's a corner. That's what he played in the NFL. Like that's something that he is very good at helping guys out at. The pieces he has now, like if he could turn some of these guys into just something with the talent that there is, I don't see how the Lions don't move into the top 10 by the end of the year.
I'm going to be honest, and I hate to do this. Where are the Bears?
Bears secondary.
Were they not on there?
Where are they at? Can you scroll down?
They are.
Bears have a good secondary.
19th.
Wow.
And we're not going to sit and talk about the Bears, but the Bears should be higher. I mean, that's just like, what are we doing? I mean, we just talked about it the other day. They're the best secondary in the NFC North. We all agreed. And the Lions, I had them at second behind the Bears. So like, I don't know. The PFF must not like.
PFF has it.
Grades.
Packers, Lions, Bears, Vikings. That's how they have it.
Yeah, that's a little dumb, but the Packers I think are rightfully rated. They're top 10. I think the Bears should be around there, and the Lions should be. I think the NFC North, their secondary should all be top 12, 11 at this case. Lions being 11. So listen. I have no problem with where they're ranked. I think this is fair. I mean, they talk about the additions, who they drafted, and even with a rookie corner in Terrion Arnold, I'm not really nervous. I think Terrion's a really good player. And I think he's in a perfect role for a rookie. I think the number 2 spot for him, like I'm not too concerned, even though, there's going to be some, moments where he's a rookie, but I'm not sitting here going, concern level for Terrion Arnold. I don't really have that.
Just think about if Ennis Rakestraw starts making plays towards the back end of the season. It's just another player. You'd be like, oh, fine, second round. Just another depth piece that's going to be a starting player for this team and could start for probably like 90% of the league as well.
I do think too, like Terrion, if Terrion was in a position where he had to be CB1 right away, like I think eventually he's going to be in his career. But like instantly, like if you put him in a position to where it's like we don't have Carlton Davis, and say the Cam Sutton situation happened and Brad never made a move for Carlton Davis, and you're sitting there, you draft Terrion, and it's Terrion and the rest of and no Carlton Davis. All right, that's a little where you're like, all right, you're putting him in a tough position in the NFC North.
Through this year.
Yeah, like through the NFC North, it's like you're in a bad spot. But now that he's able to be like that number 2, he's able to sit back, learn from a guy like Carlton Davis who's won a Super Bowl. And you know what? I want to say this too, guys. Like, and this conversation hasn't been had about the defense. Think about this, fellas. We're talking about trying to convert a defense that was 25th last year into a Super Bowl winning defense. Think about the 2 veteran pieces they've added. DJ Reader, who's been to a Super Bowl and who's been there and done that, and Carlton Davis, who's been there and done that and has won a Super Bowl. Like 2 of the biggest pieces you've added onto your defense, vet pieces, have been to the Super Bowl and or have won a Super Bowl. And now they're able to teach all of your young guys, Aleem McNeil, Terrion Arnold, Amik Robertson, Ennis Rakestraw. Like I think that's just so invaluable, guys. I think that's overlooked. Like we don't talk about that enough.
Yeah, championship experience, and that has to be calculated. I think there has to be some intent to that too. Super Bowl expectations. You bring in guys that have either been there or won a Super Bowl. So I love that.
Both those guys too play their best football in the playoffs, especially DJ Reader.
True too. Yeah, it's true too. I think the Lions again going to be a good secondary. I don't think they're like top 5 or anything like that, but if they're top 10 to 12 in the league, I'm happy. Top 15 is a floor. So kind of what Lucas said earlier, I do agree.
Because they're run defense too, boys. We talk about them being a run first offense. They're a run stopping defense first. So if they're going to be top 5 against the run, if you have a top 10 to 15 secondary, that's probably going to be like the 8th overall defense in the NFL.
Yep, absolutely. Well, boys, training camp's at the end of the month. All right, it's coming. We're going to be down there. So if you're going down there, we will see you down there. We're going to go a couple of days and check it out, which will be a lot of fun when they allow fans in there. But what are you guys looking forward to seeing? If you had you can give me 3 things, 1 thing, 2 things, 5 things. What are some things you're most interested in watching in this year's training camp?
Boone, you want to start? Or you want me to?
Do you want me to go first? I have one. We can kind of go back and forth here.
Yeah, go one.
One that I have, and I think everyone in Jeff, I think this is like to your point of bringing players in at this position. I want to see this defensive line. I want to see the edge room. I want to see Marcus Davenport better be ready to go. Like he better, whatever injury he had, better be ready to go because I want to see him compete with Hutch. I want to see Matthew Betts compete. I want to see, Josh Pascal out there competing, Levi O. Like I want to see these guys out there compete because I want to know where this whole room's at. That's like I think my number one thing. I cannot wait to see that, and not even just see, but just hear the conversations coming out of training camp from this defensive line group. Because I think that's like we just talked up this secondary. We know what the secondary is going to be like. Those battles are going to be insane to see in camp. The secondary battles. I'm just very interested and excited to see what this defensive line turns into. Like I think that's the make or break for this defense. So that's where my very first mind. That's where it goes to.
What do you think, Klotz?
Yeah, I think for me, it's definitely got to be Jameson Williams and how he's refined his route running in his hands, how he's been able to take an off season, identify his flaws, because now he's at a legit sample size where I think in big moments, especially he's came through for the Detroit Lions. Oh, you can see that he's still very raw. So I think just part of wide receiver when you're that fast is allowing the game to slow down for you, allowing the ball to hit your hands. Okay, cool. Now let's look forward and run, because if Jameson Williams catches the ball, there's no one catching him. But you can see he's still worried about running after the catch when he hasn't caught the ball yet. So just all the little things. I just want to see how much more polished Jameson Williams is, because we talk about this Detroit Lions and how important he is to taking the next level. If he does that, I think you can be seeing things like that in training camp.
Yeah, I would agree with the JMO thing. It's a good one to go with because there's a lot of question marks in the defensive line. Those are two great ones. I would probably say if I had to pick, it would be the secondary. But it's not just the secondary; it's the battles that they're going to have one-on-one. You mentioned with JMO. That's something that I'm very intrigued with because you have a top 5 offense and one of the best passing games against the secondary. It's a good starting point for practice, especially for a new secondary. So I'm interested to see how those guys gel on the field and specifically how Terran Arnold looks. And even Amik Robertson, another guy I'm very interested to see. Carlton Davis. Like there's a lot of guys that I'll be watching. Even Dennis Rakestraw. I'm curious how much they kind of let him go or if they have him to more of a, I don't know. It's in a month, but, working him slowly like they have been. I don't know what to expect. But I would say the secondary is one of my things I'm most looking forward to seeing is how they gel on the field immediately.
I like that. Am I up again, boys?
Yeah. What you
guys ready?
Then we'll go to the people after everyone says something.
Yeah, I want to stay on defense though. I want to see. I guess we've already talked about every part of this defense, but Jack Campbell, like what is it? What does this linebacking room look like with Jack Campbell and now Alex Anzalone and Derek Barnes? Where does Derek Barnes' role fill in? If Jack Campbell's taking a step, like Mina Kimes when she was on the heavyweights, she said that the Jack Campbell film that she saw last year that she said, I'm pretty sure she said she just didn't like it. Like it didn't look as good as she thought. And that was something that she said she was interested to see is all of these linebackers in the NFL. It's one of the hardest positions to figure out because, you're getting put in such bad positions, especially with the way the offenses are in the NFL today with the backs that you have to cover and the receivers and like everything you have to be able to tackle. Like the talent in the NFL is just at a different level to where some of these linebackers is coming into the league, they struggle a little bit. So like she was even saying she's interested to see the jump that Jack makes from OTAs and mini camps. It sounds like Jack has made some sort of jump. I'm just interested to see how big of a jump it is and kind of if that turns into him and Jack Campbell or Jack Campbell and Alex Anzalone, just a 1-2, just absolute one of the best duos linebacking cores in the NFL this year. That's what I'm interested to see because I hope that's what it turns into. Klotz, I know you're high on Anzo, and we're pretty high on Jack Campbell. So I think if they both work out, that's a scary linebacking room.
Yeah, and Jeff, hit it real quick. Just my Wi-Fi's catching up with it. Go for it real quick.
Yeah, I would say for me another thing to watch, and I know this. I'll just say it, and I'm not saying this to fit a narrative, but I want to see Aidan Hooker. I want to see how much he's progressed. He looked rough in OTAs and minicamp. Don't worry, it's not for any narrative purposes. Again, is this guy going to be your backup? That's really what I'm watching. It's going to be interesting to see how he do. Is Nate Sudfeld going to be your backup? Hopefully not. So I just want to see how he's progressed. It's just something I'm intrigued by, given what he looked like and what was being reported out of minicamp and OTAs. So I guess say
backup quarterback is important in the NFL. So I'm with you on that.
Really, I'm just curious to see like his development, not just because again, if you want to trade this guy, it's got to be good. You know, what are you going to trade? You can't have it both ways. You can't say, oh, he stinks, but we're going to get a 3rd round pick for him. Like that's just not how that works. So I would say his development, how he's progressed.
Yeah, you went with one backup, Hefe. I'll go with another one that I've criticized a lot, and that's Levi O, because I think Levi O is a guy that people are talking and hyping up in OTAs, but I'm just interested to see, like, if I'm proven wrong with Levi O, great. But I think there's a spotlight on him more than anything because I think he would be considered Brad's – because I don't think anything outside of, like, the 3rd, 4th round, like, you're not banking on anything. I think he would be Brad's biggest miss to date. So I think there's a lot kind of riding on him as far as what he can produce this year because, I mean, you're asking him to be your 3rd string defensive tackle and a 2nd round pick. If he can't do that, then it's time to go.
That is an interesting one too, Klotzy, because there's like, I don't want to say it's mixed reports, but no, it's not mixed reports. It's just, I think it's just, beat writers and people being pretty honest was that, he had a good spring, but a lot of people also say that that's Levi O's a candidate for a cut candidate. Because if he ends up not being like, if he comes into training camp and when you do get pads on, and if Levi O doesn't end up doing what he was doing in mini camp and what they were like, oh, he did take a step and he became something, then it's like that's someone that could get cut because you've taken your time and your toll on him. So like I do think that like it's such an interest that could be at the top of the list, honestly, because like he had such a good spring and everyone talked about him. But then at the same time, as soon as it's all over, everyone starts writing these articles and talking about how he could be a cut candidate. I think the Doc came on our show a couple weeks ago and mentioned that, like, keep an eye out for him. Like that's a big question mark with Levi O is he could be a cut candidate because he needs to translate what he did to the spring into the fall.
I see people in the chat arguing about Yannick Ngakwe, bringing him in. He's a free agent.
I mean, take a look at him, but I mean, he's essentially what James Houston is. He's going to get after the quarterback, but he's been consistently productive. He really hasn't went to a team and fell on his face. I don't recall what he did last year. I doubt he was an absolute liability. But yeah, I mean, the Lions could use it. It depends on what his price is. Usually, he's looking for a 1-year contract from like $8 to $10 million. So if they bring him in, like, I'm not going to be opposed to it, but he's not going to be a guy that you're like, okay, you have the bookend outside of Hutch, because that dude's a lot like James Houston where he cannot stop a run to save his life. Like you're putting John Kaminsky on the edge if you need to stop a run before him.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing with Yannick is he is a very good pass rusher and was, and I don't know if he's still, but at this point, I don't think he's old, but he's had some great years in the NFL, but he is so bad against the run. Like he is essentially another James Houston, which not a guy you can play on every down. So I like him. I just don't think he's the fix. You know,
that's
not the fix. So that's my take on it.
That's another name for training camp, James Houston.
Yeah, that's
keep an eye on. And he didn't play all year last year, and then he played towards the end, or he just played in the playoffs, I think, and he didn't really do much. So I think that's a name. Keep an eye on him.
Well, real quick too. Shout out J-Rod. Thank you for the $2. Just let's get Wi-Fi fixed before season start. We will make sure my man is not having any issues. So appreciate that, J-Rod. People are weighing in with what they want to see. Tom says, I want to see what receiver replaces Reynolds. Is it Cleef, DPJ, or Green? Okay, that's a good one.
I think that's the order.
J-Mo. I think it'll be J-Mo and then those guys what Klotzy said, that exact order. Khalif will fall into place at 3, DPJ, Green. And who am I missing? There's another wide receiver in there that's been
Isaiah Williams, Traquan Smith.
I think he might follow us on Crunch Time on Instagram. He likes all of our stuff. Drawing
Fountain.
Yes.
We call it Fountain.
Yeah,
does he follow?
I don't know if he likes like everything we post. I don't know if he follows us.
Fountain, drop a follow, man.
But he for sure, like every time I go on there, he's liking our posts. So I followed him back.
Games.
Yeah,
games.
But he's a name that remember he made that massive catch that got posted, and everyone's like, "Who is this?" And it was Fountain, and he ended up making plays. So maybe him. Keep an eye out for him.
We got to post some Fountain highlights. It's just
We should.
Sure,
Honestly.
we'll go get some.
Tom says secondary competition and kicker battle. He also said that. Those are great. All three things he suggested are really good. Dad with Tourette says, I want to see backup offensive lineman growth. The shoe is going to drop right. Decker, Glasgow, Ragnow, and they're always dinged up, and injury is coming.
I like that. You know what? In my notes here, my notepad, I literally had offense, backup offensive line, ? Colby Sorsdale. Like, I think that's an interesting training camp.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one. One of those guys, like, there's going to be, it's the same thing with the receiver. Like, there's going to be injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Who's going to step up?
For the next one, LFG says, looking forward to 1, Jamo's improvement, 2, Davenport's status. Davenport's a good one. Just single him out. Don't even say it, just single him out.
Yeah.
3, try hard Campbell's progress. I'll add 1, a Campbell speech. Are we getting what kind of speech are we getting from Dan Campbell? That's something I'm looking forward to at training camp. He's gonna have a lot of those.
Do you guys wish, like, and I hate this, I wish that we were on Hard Knocks every year. Like, I love, like, some of the best moments of my life as a Lions fan, like, this is outside of winning all last year. But, like, do you remember when Hard Knocks was on? I remember making popcorn every single night and having HBO up ready up in our living room. And I had a bucket of popcorn, something good to drink. And it was just, as soon as it hit whatever it was, 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, refresh HBO instantly, press play, and roll. Like, I was just like, I was so locked in. And it was like, I could not wait every single week for that to come out. And, like, that was like, the hype of that was so good. Like, oh my gosh. That was my first year at our former employer, and I was running socials too. So, like, I was locked into that. Like, I was just so dialed in.
I will say, Booner, to just speak on the Hard Knocks, great experience. It was awesome. A lot of viral moments happened. Even the Jamal Williams speech, Dan Campbell speech, AG versus Deuce, and all this stuff. It's awesome.
Great.
Now, what I will say is, we have to take into consideration that Hard Knocks went very well, but sometimes they don't always go well.
For sure.
It's not that the Lions would mess it up, but you can't really control. It just happened. Some organizations, like, there's stuff that comes out from Hard Knocks that, like, kind of puts a stain on what's going on. So part of me enjoyed it, and part of me is like, I'm good. I like Inside the Den. All right, they got Inside the Den. You get the draft stuff they cover and all that stuff. So I'm almost like, okay, I'm cool. You know, I'm cool. I don't. Any controversial stuff coming out. Maybe someone gets cut and something. I don't know. Just keep it away.
I'm with you on that. I think Dan Campbell and those guys like Jared Goff and them. I remember them saying, or the Detroit Lions were the first ones with Hard Knocks that said, we're not like you're. Wait, no, they did do it, didn't they? They showed some people getting cut.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was the Jets, actually. There was a team recently that were like, we're not going to show that stuff. But I think Dan Campbell, like, he's always going to have it under control.
Because they cut, that was who'd they cut?
The big lineman.
Pimpleton.
Yep.
Oh, yeah, the
from Central.
Pimpleton, yeah.
There was a lineman, too, that they cut. I can't remember who it was.
Was Dan Skipper cut and then brought back? No.
It might have been the Skip.
Was it Skip? Or
I don't know.
It was someone. Maybe the chat knows. Oh, Easy.
Oh, yes. Easy. Yes.
Yeah, because he was the guy that was like kind of a project, and he was trying to make it in the NFL. So, yeah. There's that.
And they do, like, the Inside the Den stuff is great. Again, I saw a comment in there. I just wish it did come out a little more frequently. Like, that would be sweet. But I know it's more so of an inside the house done deal where Hard Knocks, it's like a full-on production.
Yeah, so you get unprecedented access with Hard Knocks, like stuff that Inside the Den would not show, you know, like, so I get that.
Do you know what's exciting? Next Wednesday, the receiver show comes out with Amon-Ra St. Brown. So, like, that, where we get that comes out next Wednesday on Netflix. That's going to be exciting.
Mm-hmm. I like it. That's going to be good.
They should have as well too. You know how, like, Hard Knocks is doing a full season of the division. Well, I can't remember what division they're doing. I think it's the AFC East. Is it the AFC East?
I don't know.
Or AFC North. They're doing the AFC North, and they're following around all 4 of the AFC North teams. The NFC North would have been a perfect team with Caleb Williams, JJ, the Lions, what the Lions are doing and what's happening over there in Green Bay with Jordan Love. Like, they should have done the NFC North. Like that would have been the best division to do it.
ECL on what he wants to see from training camp. He says, I want to see players hold each other accountable, position groups staying after practice, putting in extra work, high-level competition, and coming out of camp healthy. That was the most PR answer, and I love it. Like, I actually agree with everything he said.
For sure.
You want the injuries are the biggest thing. I mean, yeah, you want those guys healthy. Like, that's always a fear for – I mean, injuries are really the only thing – potentially derailing a contender. I mean, that let's be honest. Like it just comes down to that. But what?
Oh man.
Come on. Hey, he did a good job. My hair, it's a problem that I'm getting used to, Boone, if I'm being honest. I've had my hair slicked back for years. So now that when I go really short, it like sticks up. And you can kind of, it looks like it's just, I'm getting used to it, but I do appreciate not really having to do any work. It's kind of nice. I don't know.
Dude, my hair, you guys know me too. Like I just go through battles with my hair. Like it's too long right now. I haven't got a haircut because when I was on vacation and now doing the show and working. Yeah. And it's just like, I don't know what to do with my hair. And I'm not a big fan of wearing hats. I will, but it's just like my hair is so long. I just don't know what to do. I can't put it down or it's just going to be like, so I don't know.
Yeah. And I see Detroit Supremacy said Lady Jane's. No, I did get my other buzz cut by Lady Jane's, and
this one looks good. Like your barber, I'm drawing a blank, but
Spencer. He does a great job.
He does a great job. Like you have a great fade.
Say thank you, ECL. I appreciate that. Brother. Yeah. Devin says, I fuck with you though, Jeff. See, Devin, I appreciate that, brother. Hey, he's showing love.
Let's go.
I ain't afraid of no constructive criticism. I disagree. I do like the haircut. It's just, it's different. I'm going to grow it back out though before the season. Booner,
maybe you should. You
got 2 months?
Yeah, but maybe you should just go a little longer. I don't know. We can brainstorm this. Let's have some conversation.
Let's. Screw crunch time. Let's brainstorm how do we get what's going on with my dome. You know what I mean?
We can figure this out.
We gotta figure it out. But yeah, great suggestions from the people. J Rod says, Jeff, stop wearing your hat outside.
That's fair. That's fair. Maybe you just need a tan up there.
Like thinning. I am not thinning. I do. Thank God I got good genes in my family. I don't have not too many receding hairlines or bad hairlines or anything like that. But yeah, maybe it is letting my, wearing hats, I guess. Maybe that's a thing. I don't know. I'm not like into, I just wear hats sometimes, hats are cool. You wear hats indoors, Boone. I wear hats, it's how it works. Especially when you have hair like you do. You got to wear hats, man, sometimes. Yeah. You got longer hair. You got to wear hats.
Having a bad hair day, the hats come in handy. Yep. They definitely do. I need to figure out a new hairstyle. I need to figure something out. I don't know what to do with my hair anymore. Like maybe the mullet comes back. I don't know. I do mullet? Not know. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure what to do. Maybe the chat, maybe the people out there can help me brainstorm, but I need to figure something new out, and I need to figure it out quick.
Yeah, maybe the mullet. I don't hate it. I think that would be a hell of a move from you, Boone. I will say.
It was weird last time, but maybe I do it again. I don't know.
Steve says dye it blue. Dye the mullet blue.
Well, we did the blue spray for, I can't remember what game it was. I think it might have been the Rams game when we did the blue spray. That spray the blue spray did not come out of my hair for the Rams game for like over a week. I had to get like a special like treatment for my hair to get it to come out. It would not come out.
What? Oh my God.
It was crazy. And you used the same stuff and it came out for you. It would not come out for me. So I don't know what happened, but it just would not. I washed it a million times. It's just, for the next week, every time I would wash my hair, there was just blue stuff coming out.
ECL says, Booner, you should get your dreads, bro. You look like Joe Dirt.
Joe Dirt.
Like Riff Raff. Booner would be Riff Raff walking around with the chains and the Lions gear with the fat ass sunglasses.
Yeah,
I'm up to suggestions with anything. I mean, I'm up for anything. Just let me know. Give me some. Send me.
What about a man bun, Booner? You got the legs down. Could you imagine Booner with a man bun?
I don't like
I'd
man
slap
buns.
you every time I'd see it. Probably. That's like the bottom of the barrel of a men's haircut.
I can't do long hair
unless it's like taken really well care of. Like, dude.
Yeah, I've had some from
I
Australia.
gotta have
actually.
a conversation to like you after that point. Like off face value, not question.
One of my good friends from Australia, he had a man bun, and it was a good one. Like it was long hair, but it was like, and he hooped, so he had it up in a bun the whole time, and it was slick. Like I'll send you guys a picture. I'll show you guys after the show. It was like a slick man bun, and it was nice. Like I was like, dude, do you? I
They
just
take
never
care
gonna
of
do
it.
that. For sure.
Kudos. But there's
Yeah.
some dudes that just have some nasty ass fucking hair that just don't shower and it smells. It's dirty. Respect yourself. You have hair. Not everybody
Yep.
gets to have hair. Respect it.
Facts. I mean, Devin says, do y'all think Jahmyr starts this year? We all agree and he does, right? We all agree he's probably going to be the lead back.
I think
Not in terms of we disagree, and because Lukas, you feel a certain way about it. I think the carries are more slightly tilted in Jahmyr's favor, but not by a landslide.
I think maybe as far as like starting the season, I could see David Montgomery going out there for the first drive, but then there's just going to be a point where I've said it too many times. Jahmyr Gibbs is just a player that's going to be hard to keep off the field. And I think the Lions are just going to fall victim to that, where it's like, you have Jahmyr Gibbs, use him. Obviously, they're going to still incorporate David Montgomery, but I think there's a real chance he's the focal point of this offense this year. Run first team. He's the best running back they got. He's going to be getting the big opportunities, in my opinion.
I do think last year too, like towards the second half of the year and the playoff stretch, like we all knew Jahmyr Gibbs was probably the better back. Like we all knew the way he was playing. But Ben Johnson, what they did, they still opened up every single game and series with establishing David Montgomery in the run. To me, I do feel like, and I could be wrong with this, I feel like they did that because they know Jahmyr Gibbs can get going no matter what. No matter what, Jahmyr Gibbs is that good. He's going to go out there and he's going to cook. David Montgomery, though, I think they start him off in the game and they give him those first few carries because they want to get him going and kind of get David Montgomery, pound the ball with him, and kind of make sure David Montgomery's going. And then now we can work on Jahmyr Gibbs because Jahmyr Gibbs, is, no matter what, is electric. And I think if you get both of them going, then you get a feel. Like Jahmyr, who was it? David, the one that said, even with Craig, if Craig's on a roll, we're going to stick with him. So I do think Ben and them want to see who has the hot hand today, who's going. So I think that's why they still start the game off with D. I think so too. I just think you still need to find a way to get D-Mont involved. So I think that's why they start the game pound the rock, pound the rock, pound the rock. All right, now we've got this kid Jahmyr Gibbs. Welcome to the game.
I think is though, Boone, and I'm not saying that's a bad philosophy, but I think obviously incorporate David Montgomery into the first half of the game, but Jahmyr Gibbs, I think people take for granted how physical he runs the football as well. He's not a guy that can't take a hit. People will say Jahmyr Gibbs gets hurt. You look at David Montgomery; he got hurt this year as well. So the usage with Jahmyr Gibbs applies to pretty much every NFL running back that's active, except for prime Derrick Henry, even CMC. You're worried about getting him the ball. They're going to get David Montgomery the ball, but Jahmyr Gibbs, with how explosive he is, with how physical he is, if you can wear down a defense, not only with how physically he runs the ball, but that wears down the team mentally because you're like, where the fuck is Jahmyr Gibbs? And then, okay, now it's a close game, middle of the third quarter, and then fourth quarter, you bring in David Montgomery when they're just exhausted, and you have a fresh David Montgomery who's also elusive, but he's just going to be breaking tackles because Jahmyr Gibbs and a little bit of Demo already broke that defense down. I think if you use David Montgomery as your finishing running back this year, it's going to be brutal. It's just going to be, imagine it's just a knockout punch. It's just all right, here you go. It's just you've been getting pieced up in quarter 1, 2, and 3, and here comes David Montgomery. You're getting smacked in the fucking mouth. Good night.
I do think Devin said it too. He's taking him number one in fantasy.
He's going to be a hot commodity in fantasy.
Oh, top 5 in fantasy on every league. Every league.
Because it's not just what he does in the run game, man. I think the passing game, he's going to get more touches too. With Josh Reynolds out, not that he's going to fill that exact role, but he's going to catch more balls, man. That dude's he's going to show why he's a weapon. So fantasy, he's going to go very, very high. I agree with that. Shout out JT's Massive Purpose. Good show today. You guys smash that like button, man. Smash that like button, man. Guys, what are we doing?
Hit that like button. Where are we at right now?
I think we are at, let me check right now before we keep talking.
Let's get over 100
70
before the end of
likes.
the show.
Yeah, we got to get to over 100. We got over 100 people in here watching. Let's get to over 100 likes. We would really appreciate it. But yeah, I think Jahmyr, the frame, I guess, is where people would go, but he's not he's not skinny. Maybe people look at the size.
He's stiff arming Antoine Winfield into the ground. I mean, week 1, you're watching him run over the linebackers and safeties of the Kansas City Chiefs, and he's standing right up looking over him. I mean, this guy is people, not you guys, but people act like this man can't take a hit and run in between the tackles. Like this, Jahmyr Gibbs can do everything. And
I don't think
Go ahead.
I just don't think people were expecting that. When Mina Kimes was on the heavies, they asked her about Jahmyr Gibbs, and she specifically said, like, I was shocked going into this year. She's like, I was not expecting him to be able to run between the tackles the way he did. And him going in there this year, she was like, he can do it at a high level. Like, he's a guy that will go in there lower. Like, he will I almost said bang. I don't want to say those terms, but like, he'll go in there and he's gonna mix it up.
He's banging.
And he's not afraid. And he's so, like, he'll bounce off people, make a move, and bounce outside again. Like, I posted Jahmyr Gibbs highlights clips on our social today or yesterday, and most of his runs, if you guys don't notice, like, he's in the tackles, boom, hits, bounces outside, and he's gone.
5 minutes and it's over. That's what
almost every single big run is between the tackles and bouncing out.
It was mind-boggling to me because people were like, "Oh, where is this coming from?" Like, did you not watch this man at Alabama? Like, he was cooking the SEC between the tackles. It's just people were more attracted to him running a drag route and taking it 60 yards of the house rather than the one cut and 6 yards of the house they do against Tennessee. Like, the man has been doing it at Georgia Tech. He was doing it. But they look at him and like, he's like 5'10", like 200 pounds. Like, you look at him, but it's like, okay. But then you look at LaShawn McCoy, Jamal Charles. Like, if you're a good football player, you're a good football player. That's all there is to it.
He's not afraid of contact. I mean, that dude is not, and it's like he's 5'10", 200 pounds, but he plays like he's 6 foot. He plays bigger, but he still is quick. It's like he plays bigger, but he's also just as elusive as like 5'8".
That's what makes players great.
Yeah.
Like when DeAndre Hopkins was great, it's because he's just jumping over everybody. He's 6'3", but he's playing like he's 6'6". Calvin Johnson was 6'3", but that man was playing like he was 7 fucking foot. Like, that's what makes players great.
Yeah.
I am excited to see Jahmyr Gibbs. I think that's, like, you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, who arguably a top 5 receiver, and then you have Jahmyr Gibbs, a top 5 like this year running back, and then you have Sam Laporta, a top 5 tight end. And that's like and then you have Penei Sewell, who's probably the best offensive lineman in the NFL, and the number, like, that I don't like it. I can't wrap my head around how crazy that offense is. Like, it's stacked. You have 4 or 5 all-pro players at each of their positions potentially.
And Dad with Tourette says Gibbs was 3rd in yards after contact per attempt behind Achane and Jonathan Taylor, minimum 100 carries. He was 10th in total yards after contact. So, I mean, hey.
Big.
And that's a number that will go up because he's going to get more carries and he's going to break more tackles this year.
And he's just he's just going to keep getting better. Even if he had the same amount of carries, his yards is going to go up because he's going to get more comfortable in the league. He's going to only get better and better. He's in the weight room, I'm sure, all summer.
But sometimes, I mean, the run against the Vikings, like, they couldn't even touch him. So how do you qualify? How do you quantify that? Like, he's not even getting touched because he's making guys miss. It's like, this is a good stat, but like, there's how many we have to measure the amount of times he's making guys miss. Like, so
whiffs.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder, like, he's got him, C-Mac, Saquon. Trying to think if there's any other guys that are just shifty
like that.
Yeah. I can't. I mean, there's going to be other ones, but
Alvin Kamara, essentially, like, you could argue at times.
He was. Yeah, Alvin was. He was at one. I don't know. He's been run to the ground, but
Kyron's probably got a couple.
Do you guys remember the first couple games with Jahmyr Gibbs where, like, he didn't break out yet? But I remember watching it with you guys to where he, like, comes around the corner and he makes a couple guys miss, or he gets hit and then just keeps going and makes another guy, like, instantly you could tell, like, okay, this is a dude. And they talked about it a lot, saying, like, he's not a guy that's just going to go out about, like, he's going to lower his shoulder or he's going to make one move and he's not scared of contact. And he's like, he would rather go get 3 or 4 yards. And maybe that's not a good thing if you want him, like, to keep him healthy, but he'll rather go out there and get 3 or 4 yards extra than just run out of bounds, which is like his 3 or 4 yards turns into 30, 40.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see this question. By the way, get your questions ready. We're going to start Mailbag. We're about 15 minutes left. Let's get to Mailbag. Steve asked Mailbag, are we screwed if the scenario of St. Brown, Laporta, and Gibbs being out at the same time? A combination of them were out last season, but not all 3 at the same time. I mean, yeah, those are 3 better offensive players. So, like, yeah, I mean, I would say yes, Steve, but I don't. It's not something you like plan for. That's like worst case scenario. If they're all 3 out, like, yeah, Brock Wright, lock in.
Ready to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
3 yards and cloud of dust football. That's like you're relying on your defense to get only allowed 10 points so you can get a touchdown and a couple field goals and walk out of there.
Yeah. Dave Montgomery, you're getting 20 plus carries, like that. So, yeah, but that's not like even a really worth even a debate. Like, yeah, you're screwed. It's like asking the 49ers, what if they miss Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, and Brandon Ayuk? It's like, yeah, they're probably
Everyone's out.
Yeah,
there is a sense if like one of them goes down or someone goes down or even 2 of them, like last year, Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery went down in the Bucks game. Or Jahmyr, I think, wasn't playing and D-Mount went
Both
down.
of them, yeah.
And like
Both.
Ben Johnson, that's why I think Ben Johnson's so good. He finds a way, like whoever he has. All right, now we can run an offense through this. And like with Craig, and like they started you basically using Amon-Ra as another running back out of the backfield for a little bit. And getting him in positions.
Yeah.
That touchdown that he had, just a little, I think it was like a little cross route or like a screen or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was a running back, and Craig's blocking, and he goes up and runs for a touchdown.
Malcolm at fullback.
Yeah. So I don't think it's crazy. If someone goes down for a couple of weeks, like I don't think your offense is hurt. Ben is so good at adjusting.
I mean, Steve says Panthers, Gibbs and St. Brown were out, and then we had Monty and Gibbs against the Bucks. I mean, yeah, and to that Bucks game, they had no run game. I mean, that run game was. And that was one of the first games that, or at least a game this past season, that like my level of respect for Goff was increased.
Yeah,
like no run game, and he just dotting them up. I mean,
I think that was a Ben Johnson game too, because like I think I might have been watching it with you guys and Klotz. We kept mentioning it, just like Ben was just using Amon-Ra St. Brown. It was like the run game. It was like just screen passes out of the backfield, and that's all it was the whole time with Amon-Ra. I think he didn't run, but like he had like 130 yards, and he was just getting short routes, just quick 1 yard routes, just boom, 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 and it was like a run game essentially. It's incredible that like that man's brain, the way his brain works. It's
if there is a game that
it.
Amon-Ra St. Brown is out, all the eyes will be on Jameson Williams. That's going to be like the game.
Laporta.
Yeah,
everyone. Well, Sam Laporta, but I'm saying in terms of like, how's he going to look?
Yeah.
Like Sam's going to be obviously the number one option in the passing game, but man, JMO, they're going to look at JMO and be like, what can he do with this? Now you're forced to give this man a lot of targets.
What game was he out last year? Which game was that?
The
Which
Panthers.
one, Amon-Ra?
That was the Panthers
I'm
game.
pretty sure Laporta got a touchdown in that game.
Yeah, and JMO was suspended, I think, at that time.
Laporta had 2 touchdowns, and Josh Reynolds had 76 yards for a touchdown.
Yep.
Yeah,
JMO did play. He had 2 catches for 2 yards.
That was like his first game back. That was the one where he almost got his head taken off too.
Yeah, it might have been.
Oh, okay. That was
but again,
like right when he returned.
There's 20 catches in that game, split up between 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different players. So like they were getting the ball, like they were getting the rock around in that game.
Phil asked Mailbag, what team will be a sleeper to make the playoffs to everyone's surprise? It's a good question.
I mean, do you guys consider my Colts one?
No, I do, because I don't agree. Yeah. So that's a sleeper.
Steelers. I think the Steelers make it.
The Bears. The Chicago Bears.
I don't even know if that's a surprise because they're like minus 100.
No, if they make the playoffs, I would be surprised.
Dude, they're odd. The odds is the sports books odds. I'll pull it up right now. Let's look at the Colts odds and let's look at the Bears odds. You're going to be shocked because I think it's the AFC to the NFC.
But I'm just saying, like, I get that's what the sports book are saying, but I mean, I just don't see that.
Klotz, confirmed, hates the sports books.
Confirm it. Man,
the Bears are.
I know you mentioned the Chargers a couple of times.
Yeah, the Chargers, I think, will make that could be an interesting one. Yeah, you know what? I'll go Chargers because I think the Steelers. You guys named some pretty good ones. I don't think there's a bunch of sleeper teams that can make the playoffs. Like usually, if a team's going to stink. For the most part, I'll go Chargers because I think they'll be around 7-8 wins. They win a game or two more. Something falls their way. They're in the playoffs. I think Seattle's a good one. That's another one I contemplated.
Do
you
want the odds
for who?
The Bears, all the ones we just named.
Okay.
So we know who's like the longest shot here for out of the ones that we named. So let's just say the Bears. Bears are minus 120 to make the playoffs. So they're projected to make the playoffs. The Indianapolis Colts are plus 140.
That's not bad though. It's not bad.
No, but let me get you this.
Wait till they see that boy AR week 1 with
The Los Angeles Chargers. So the Colts are plus 140. The Los Angeles Chargers, they have better odds to make the playoffs. They're plus 106.
And the Colts? Yeah. Okay.
And then the Steelers, the longest shot out of the 4 that we have, plus 198. So.
Yeah, I mean, Vegas, make your money now while you can. Those Colts are going to be making me some money. There's no, outside of injury, I don't see a way that this Colts team doesn't make the playoffs. I don't. They're going to be.
Let's do a solo cam so we can clip it. Say it again.
Clip it. There's no way that the Indianapolis Colts do not make the playoffs in 2020. Shane Steichen, he's going to be an offensive wizard like he has been. I think they have so many weapons on the offensive side of the ball. They're very solid on the defensive side of the ball. And I think that they just play a physical brand of football, kind of similar to the Detroit Lions. And we always talk about when you have a good GM, head coach, and quarterback, you're going to win some games. And I don't think that Anthony Richardson's going to be a great quarterback, but I think he's going to have some great moments this year that's going to get him to the playoffs at the bare minimum.
I don't hate it. Like I'm in on the Colts.
Klotz, you got me with my own theory. You know, you guys, that's smart. Very good chess move. Now I'm forced to agree. But now I will say the Anthony Richardson thing. Yeah, it's a big question mark. You know, like he has to be a good quarterback this year for them. If not, Joe Flacco's waiting. Mm-hmm.
Don't let him get hot. You saw what happened with Stefanski. Imagine that man was Steichen now.
Oh yeah, I mean,
You're gonna see like where the NFL is going with Shane Steichen's offense this year. Just big mobile quarterback running RPOs, because you could say you're going to see it with Caleb, but not with Matt Eberflus. Like the NFL, where it's going, watch Shane Steichen.
Anthony Richardson's got a ton of talent, man.
He does. I think I'm like very interested to see what Anthony Richardson does. Like it could be either because last year you saw like glimpses of it, and then he gets hurt instantly. And I'm pretty sure he even gained more weight when he went on the Pat McAfee show. Like he's like, I just keep doing the same thing. Like I'm not going to sit here and not say I'm going to stop running the ball. Like that's part of my game. Like, and then he was like, I don't think that's like, obviously I got hurt running the ball, but he was like, that it just happened. And he was like,
Joe Burrow gets hurt sometimes, and Joe doesn't run the ball. So
he was like, I'm just going to keep running the ball, and I'm going to keep being who I am. And obviously, like he's working on his passing game, and they're working on different things to add in there. But he was like, I'm not changing my game. Like I know who I am, and I think like him at his best is it's a scary player.
They have so many weapons where he has a high floor. Like they have 2 guys that can stretch the field, 2 slot receivers, 2 tight ends, and a good running back and a good offensive line. Like he doesn't need to do much. Like he just needs to let everything happen for him.
I mean, Tom says the Commanders could sneak in. Jane Daniels looks legit, and they have weapons.
I've been on the Commanders. I told you guys before the draft, I said if they draft Jaden Daniels, I'm a fan of his. And I was already a fan of what the Commanders were building. I'm just going to sit back and let it happen. We can have that. Hey, believe me later. Believe me later.
There you go. There you go.
That was something I've been locked into for months now.
Hey, well,
I think there's 7-win team. Go ahead, Jeff.
No, I was going to say, I mean, he was drafted 2nd overall, so he better be great. You know, that's
but like when I was saying he was going to be good, like the conversation we had about these quarterbacks were.
You think he's better than Caleb?
No, talent wise, no, but I think there's a chance that he could have a better career depending on what Caleb does. Like Jeff, you know how hard it is.
There's always a chance. There's a chance that what's that guy from Kentucky? Give me
this is a Jeff thing to do. Will Levis,
Devin Leary.
Yeah, Devin Leary could be great. You know,
he's the next Drew Brees.
No, I'm kidding. I get what you're saying, Boone. I like Jane Daniels. I think he's got potential. I'm more worried about his ability to stay healthy. That's probably
I guess it's the same
they
thing.
Don't have a good O-line in
compare his size to Caleb Williams. I'm interested to see like his weight and height to Caleb Williams.
Jaden Daniels is reckless when we talk about Anthony.
He's skinny.
Jaden Daniels is like.
He's tall.
Every week he was just getting obliterated. He runs way too high.
He does have his own highlight tape out there of him just taking hits. And it's like one of the worst things ever because I'm like, I backed this guy as a quarterback coming into the NFL. Well, like he better be careful.
he's I think his talent, like there's nothing to doubt about him. But the only thing is, I think with the Commanders, they're a 7-1 team. I don't see them making the playoffs just because you got a new head coach, rookie quarterback. There's a lot of pieces that are joining on the offensive side and the defensive side. And I don't know if they're a better team than the Cowboys. I see the Cowboys making it in front of them, but I think they're just a game or two behind the Cowboys. The Commanders, 2-3 years, I think there'll be easily a wild card team making a play or a push for that division.
Thank you, Klotz. There was a point in the pre-draft process that we were doing shows that I was saying that I felt Jaden Daniels could be I would take him over. Remember, I was with Dan Orlovsky. I was like, I would take Jaden Daniels over Caleb Williams. Like there were points where there was times where I'm watching film and I'm like, how is this guy not getting talked about with Caleb Williams right now? Like the numbers he put up at LSU and what he was doing was just incredible.
Just losing it.
So no, I think it's just say believe me later.
I'd love to watch the film with you.
Okay, well, we should watch it one time.
Get him, Jeff. Let him know, Jeff. Turn on the film.
Yeah, we can compare the film. But to Booner, I can't really argue. I mean, his tape is good. It's
great, dude.
Jaden Daniels. I mean, he made every throw. I mean,
for 2 years.
But that's the thing that you adjust to. It was in the SEC. I understand that. But that's the thing why people were skeptical on CJ Stroud too. Is like with the talent he had, like everyone was wide open. So it's like that's what Jane Daniels too. It's like at LSU, all the talent. Like what happens when you get to the NFL, and he's in a good situation now with Washington. They got some weapons, man. Who's the receiver out of Penn State they got?
Jahan Dotson.
Dotson. See, he's good. Terry McLaurin.
Roman went to the Steelers.
They got someone else, don't they?
I can look it up real quick.
Curtis Samuel just went to Buffalo. They had Curtis Samuel. I feel like they do have.
They do. Luke McCaffrey.
Oh yeah.
That's your guy, Lucas. Yeah, that's your guy.
Austin Eckler, Zach Ertz.
Austin Eckler and Zach Ertz ain't moving the needle for me whatsoever. Hey, Eckler though, talk about fantasy. Eckler's gonna be a flex demon. Jaden Daniels gonna be checking it down to him at least.
A lot. Yeah. That's also good for Jaden Daniels. Yep. On the run a little bit, just boom, good run.
You get it to Terry McLaurin. That's what you
do. I'm just trying to do a little dump off. Just make a play. Make a play. What I gotta say when I go, that's like a deep pass. So I don't know what the sound is for a short pass.
Little check down.
David Tourette says Caleb Williams teammates drafted in the first 3 rounds, ? 0. Daniels threw to Justin Jefferson 2.0 and another elite wide receiver. Why would anyone be confident in the guy who had elite wide receivers versus the guy he threw to the number 6 and number 23 picks in the NFL draft? I'm not saying
you know what, Dad with Tourette's, you're a very valuable listener to the program. I respect you a ton. I appreciate you tuning in. Joe Burrow was bad too because he actually threw to Justin Jefferson and all those guys too. He turned out he turned out to be terrible in the NFL.
Well, and the thing is like
just because you throw to great, like CJ Stroud threw to great wide receiver, he turned out to be really bad too, didn't he? No, like these guys, like you're in the NFL, they're gonna have wide receivers that are great, so he's gonna have wide receivers to throw to.
You just watch how the man ran the ball too, and I just think the way that the poise that he had, especially after the hits that he was taking, just to be able to go back and 60-yard dot down the field, and he would hit the wide receivers in stride. Both of them were highly productive. It wasn't like Malik Neighbors was getting fed this week and Brian Thomas the next week. Like, no, he was distributing the ball fine, and I think that's an art that NFL GMs like to have.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's fair.
They're no Taj Washington or Brendan Rice, but still.
Yeah, I mean, one of his more productive wide receivers at USC went in the 7th round, almost undrafted, which he should have been higher.
I saw a game film the other day on Twitter, and it was Alabama versus LSU, and it had like Ja'Marr Chase, Justin Jefferson, Jalen Waddle, who else? Like just the receivers on both sides were just insane. Like I was like, this is one of the craziest receiving games of all time.
Devontae Smith there too.
Devontae Smith was in the game. Yeah, like it was nuts. Randy Moss's son was in it. Like, dude, it was just like this is an insane game right now. And then you had Joe Burrow and Tua just going back and forth. And
Derek Stingley.
Yeah, they threw for 500 yards. It's crazy.
Who was that linebacker at LSU? Very random, but Chason?
Kayvon Chason. I thought he was gonna be something. Whenever there's a
too.
fast LSU running back, I love him. Like Devin White, I remember I wanted the Lions to draft Devin White so bad. I didn't care if it was a linebacker.
It's weird. Whenever we bring up a player that I thought was going to be good, you thought he was going to be good too. So now I don't feel as bad. But I like.
We've got some ball knowers in here, eh?
Fun fact in Madden franchise, I'd always bring in Chase on and make him on my team. I'd always bring him in. I just
That's what I do with Denzel Perryman. I'm a big Denzel Perryman fan. Couldn't tell you why.
Yeah, it just kind of. But hey, we appreciate all you guys, man. Tomorrow the doc will be joining the show, so be there for that Wednesdays. The doc.
Can everyone hit the like button right now? We're at 80
Absolutely.
likes. Let's go over 100 here. Everyone just take a minute, like the stream and leave a comment.
We are 29 subs away from 8,000. So tell a friend to tell a friend. We're almost there.
So close to 10 too, man.
We appreciate every single one of you. Until tomorrow.
Love you guys.
Stay safe out there. Stay blessed.
Peace.
We'll catch you. Deuces.